and gentlemen, welcome to the Deadman 2019 Summer Finale. Now, as you may know, this is the last Deadman in its current format. So let's take a quick look at the journey Deadman's had to take to get to this point.
Deadman mode was first discussed on a Q&A livestream April 16th, 2015.
Where effectively you'll have a hardcore PvP world. Accounts will only be able to log into this world and get XP in this world.
The idea was simple. A high-risk, high-reward game mode with boosted experience rates and mechanics never seen before in Old School. And we quickly found ourselves creating the new game mode.
Keys are going in my pocket. I appreciate the bank, my friend. GG.
After its release, the idea to introduce seasons leading up to a broadcasted tournament came up. And we held our first ever tournament on the 26th of March 2016. This tournament comprised of the top 2,000 ranked players, all being invited to compete in a battle royale style fight, with dangerous fog encroaching until one player was left standing, winning the $10,000 grand prize. Over the many seasons, we've released copious amounts of updates to give the game mode variety and make things more interesting.
Got him, KO! There it is.
Each tournament has seen impressive commitment from the various clans and teams over the years, as well as the many solo players and content creators.
Oh yes, we got him! We got, oh my...
Resulting in 15 epic tournaments and nearly $350,000 awarded to the winners. Deadman mode has helped to show what Old School RuneScape is capable of if we follow our ambitions, and we're grateful for all it's given us. We released a blog back in April letting you know the Deadman Summer Finals will be the last Deadman in its current format, as Deadman will be on hiatus until we've taken the time to redesign it. This is not us cancelling Deadman. It's an opportunity to go back to the drawing board and take a closer look at what we've learned from the game mode so far, and where we'd like to take it from here. That said, thank you all for being a part of Deadman. We hope you join us in looking forward to what the future holds for the game mode.
Welcome, guys, to the Deadman Summer 2019 Finale. I'll be your host, Mod Archie. Joined with me are my casters. We've got Aiza, Ben.
Howdy.
How you doing?
I'm feeling good, emotional, but good, very excited. Can't wait.
Emotionally excited. Yeah. Ian, Pure Spam, how you doing?
Same as Ben, to be honest. Excited to see this underway, but very nervous and very, sad to be seeing DM going for now.
It is a very exciting time for us on this couch. We've been doing this for years. This is the 15th tournament.
Wow.
So much has happened. Ben, do you want to talk to us a little bit about why we're making this change to put Deadman on a halt?
Yeah, so I was kind of like thinking about it in general because there's been a lot of comments from people that have saying like, why stop it when it can just carry on even if it's not in its current, tournament setting that we have at the moment. And I was thinking to the very first Deadman and how it just really first started off as kind of like an open world with mayhem and chaos ensuing throughout the entirety of it. And back then, nothing was known. No one knew about the best training spots, the best places to lock down, the best areas to go to, the best quests to complete and which order to complete them in. So it was always something new that was happening. And whilst there have been some really fantastic changes happening to Deadman over the course of the many years that it's been running for now, and even to this day, there are still times that we find like new clans finding out different pieces of information and new strategies that they put together. It has started to become a little bit samey. There's only so many times that you can watch the same thing from a different angle until you realise that it actually is just a repeat of what's already been done. And I was saying to myself, actually, I think it's really good that Jagex have taken that initiative now to kind of like take a step back and have realised that themselves and said, you know what, Deadman deserves more love and attention than it's currently getting. So let's actually stop doing what we're doing, give it a break. Because it's very difficult to kind of like actually completely rework something whilst it's also still being worked on. These tournaments, they take up a lot of your guys' resource and time from multiple people as well as the community. So even getting feedback can at times be difficult in a high level of quality. So yeah, just taking that step back, redoing it all, and then breathing a new life into the game mode. And I, for one, cannot say how excited I am to see what potential changes we're going to see in the future.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, man. How exhilarating the first demo mode was compared to how same it's gotten, like you just said a minute ago. It's just, I can't wait to experience that thrill again, that excitement where everyone jumps in, doesn't really know what's going on, and all these new metas are being found out as it continues.
Yeah, I mean, thinking back to the first ever Deadman, that was essentially, it wasn't even supposed to be a seasonal or tournament thing. It was just a world, and everybody played it, and then we invited the top 2,000 to compete, and eventually the last person standing after the fog pushed everybody into Falador. It killed everybody. Received $10,000. Since then, we've made changes every single season. And we've upped the prize pool to $32,000. As we said, I think 15 tournaments, nearly $350,000 given away, which is a fortune. And it's done so much to help build up people in clans, sorry, not clowns. But yeah, it's been an amazing journey to get to this point. But as you were saying, there's only so much we can do when we go from season to season to season. So we're going to take a step back. When I address the rumor that's to say this is not the end of Deadman as it is. It might come back with a different name. It might come back with a different face. But we're going to do it bigger and better than ever. We're going to look at what we did well, what we did wrong, what we want to improve on. And I'm really excited to see it come back.
Me too.
Yeah.
So Ian, you were the only one on this couch actually that was here at the spring rerun.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about that.
Sure. So yeah, 2 weeks ago I was invited back alongside Nitinator to host and Rakesy, who co-casted with me. And we did the rerun because in the last tournament, which was the spring finals, I believe, about a couple months ago, and we last casted that one, unfortunately there was an error when players were moved from the final area of Falador into the 1 versus 1 area where they got completely wiped out. So as a result, they tried to be brought back in, which happened. But to try and be fair, Jagex decided to host another rerun of the tournament, which happened 2 weeks ago, like I just said. And they offered the same prize money as well, $32,000, except there wasn't the multi-phase leading up to it. It was just the 1 versus 1, the high adrenaline fights with the VLS and all of that good stuff that we'll get on to talking about a bit later on as well, of course. And yeah, it was a great show. I believe in the end, Inya, one member of Frontline, won it. And I believe this might be the second time he's actually gotten that far or taken prize money home. He won $20,000. And then in the rerun we had, he came second place. He was destroying everyone right until the end. And then Bellis, one of the PVMers who's recently taken up PK in the last year or two, representing Blazers, he came down and just showed that there's even another higher skill level above that again. And it was such an intense fight the entire way through. But it goes to show as well that this tournament as well, we still don't know who could potentially take it. There's so many guys out there that are, and girls, out there that are kind of like hanging about in the midst, and people don't know of them just yet. So DMM does a great job, like you said before, to give them a platform to show their skill sets off and really grow. Yeah, definitely. It's one of my favorite things about Deadman is uncovering the new strategies and then helping to build up these communities and these players, as I said. And I wanted to take a minute, just a quick minute in this intro, to appreciate all the content creators, particularly this season, but through all Deadman seasons. I think we can get a clap in the chat for some of the influencers that have been making videos this season. These guys have been playing, what, 12-hour days minimum? 12 hours, that is rookie numbers, Chris. It's at least 20.
And then as soon as they finish, they're not going to sleep, like you might expect. They're working on their videos. They're I don't know, strategizing for the next stream. These guys have been putting in some serious hours, and it's made for some great content.
7 hours of hardcore Iron Man and my brain's frazzled. It's time to go to bed. So that's it for me.
But yes, so we've talked about the rerun, we've talked about the spring finale. We haven't yet addressed what's happened this week. We've talked about the influencers, but not so much the clans. We've seen the return of Rot, and we don't have Fools this time.
No, so the Finnish army, unfortunately, for them, they're taking the summer off as they always do, going to spend their prize money on maybe
they've won so much they've got to put it somewhere.
Exactly, so they're enjoying themselves this summer. And last time round we saw them and Blazers notably holding down Shiloh Village, which was the requirement to do a piety quest. Now this time round, Rot and a huge alliance alongside them decided to hold down Lunar Diplomacy quest on the island and the boat itself, so to avoid any other clans being able to come there and take over, be able to do things like DS2 for the Rune Dragons to get your Dragon Crossbow, as well as obviously getting even the Lunar Diplomacy quest done itself, which gives you access to Vengeance, which, as we've seen before, the range tank meta can really be powerful. Although last time around we saw a lot of the hybrids, really coming out and defeating a lot of those tanks, so that was pretty cool to see. It's been pretty standard for most clans. We'll get onto that in a little bit when we're in the permadeath stage, when we're talking about action in game. We'll have a bit more time to talk about all the clans and such. But to my knowledge, there are 2 massive alliances right now, 250 to 300 people per alliance. And you have most of the major clans from DMM and from 07 that have kind of gone into different ones depending on their previous affiliations with other clans and previous alliances. And overall, all these clans, like you said before, Rot's come back. We've seen CT, SV, loads of other clans that don't normally play DMM or haven't played every single tournament coming to the midst. So it's going to be really exciting today, I think.
Yeah, I think thinking back to that last rerun in particular, you touched on this for a second there. So that Inya guy went on to win the spring finale,
representing
and then came second, nearly winning a back-to-back and a first
almost,
for us, only to get taken out by a PVMer. I just think that story is amazing.
I think Bellis's story in general has been pretty amazing. To have only been in the last 12, 24 months or so focusing on PvP, and to have got as far as being able to be a really formidable opponent, especially in Deadman and the 1v1 sections. Just hats off to them, and I think it just goes to show that it doesn't matter what section of the game that you play. If you play RuneScape, you pretty much can do it all. And There's a lot of changes that have been happening to PvP recently, a lot more that are going to be coming up in the near future as well, and in the late future too. So if there was ever a time to try to like warm up your skills, maybe now.
Yeah, definitely. And another thing on that note, actually, is Bellis and these people who get to the 1v1s, watching back the videos of these people and their perspectives, they're not shaking. And so to play an entire tournament, a 7-day-long period, grinding for hours and hours every single day, and then get into this tournament where you have one life. If you die, that's all of that time gone.
I mean, that's half the nerves, isn't it? Keeping cool, keeping calm, and I'm not shaking. Your brain's out like I was the All-Stars event.
Exactly. So you might think you're an incredible PKer, and maybe you are, but when you're in front of so many thousands of people with 20 grand on the line, that's where the true skill shows.
Definitely.
Can we like create a new term? You know, there's obviously the Jad hands for those that might not have experienced DVM before.
Deadman hands?
Deadman hands.
Deadman hands.
Okay. All right. So we've talked about the spring finale, the rerun, and leading up to this point with the week. We haven't really addressed the tournament structure. Ian, do you want to take us through that?
Yeah, sure. So as with every season, at the end of a season, which is a 1-month-long season, the top 2,000 players from the high schools are taken and then invited back 2 months later into this tournament, which is a brand new server. Everyone starts from level 3, tutorial island. You've got the standard grinds, except obviously in Deadman mode, XP rates are increased, drop rates are also increased. And they've got a week-long straight on this one world to try and get whatever gear they can, whatever stats they can, which is why, like we said before, everyone sweats out for 20+ hours a day. It's crazy. And then leading up to the point we are right now, where the permadeath stage begins, where slowly fog is released and pushes these teams and clans and solo players into one of two areas, either Falador or Anakal. And once there, they have to fight it out until there are 128 players in each of the areas, 256 total, to be taken through to the 1 versus 1 stage. And it's really, really exciting to see. The 1v1s is where all the magic happens. Before that, we have a few clan fights like I talked about before a little bit. We've got the 2 massive solo alliances going at it. So I'm interested to see how they play, strategize together, and give themselves the best chance of being teleported into that 1 versus 1, where they get a chance at the prize money.
Yeah, very well put. And these clans, they help to feed certain individuals in their teams, don't they? So
yeah, I've got a bunch of information in notes over here, thanks to all the clans that reached out and gave me a little bit of information about themselves. I always appreciate that. So we're going more into depth about that and which team members have been fed. Hopefully, the 1v1s, we can point them out a little bit easier than we usually do. But I mean, it's going to be such a good spectacle. There's so many massive names, like I keep talking about. I'm so genuinely excited for this.
There really have been so many people, like in terms of content creators, aside from just game players. Actually, it's the directory has been popping off with streamers, people that are top 5, top 10 that you've probably never even seen streaming the game before, and they've been doing some fantastic content.
Yeah, I think I saw Sparkmac tweet out earlier. Actually, he said that before we had even gone live and that the final had begun. That there were about almost 20,000 people just waiting on the directory for this final to occur. So it's such a big build-up this whole week where people see like what takes people years in the main game because of the increased experience rates. It takes people a week to get max stats, basically. And there's a lot of people that are maxed in this tournament. So a lot of content in a very short amount of time, all leading up to this one exciting moment.
Well, it's the last one. You may as well go out with a bang. Just one thing that I don't think we touched on when we were talking about the structure was actually about prize money itself and how much players can expect to actually get here. So if you're looking at walking away from the Deadman mode in first place, you'd be taking home $20,000, and then you have second place, which is $10,000. Third and fourth place both take home $1,000, and then the top 16 players get 12 months of membership as well.
Not bad.
So yeah, it's pretty good for a week's worth of playing the game.
Yeah, and like I mentioned earlier as well, the Fools, for example, the Finnish clan, they usually put that money together to go off and have cruises or enjoy themselves. I think Blazers also have their prize money. They've recently won with Bellis winning last time. I spoke to them briefly and they said they were going to go to somewhere in America, I think Florida actually. They've booked out like a massive mansion for all the team members to go out to and spend a holiday together. So it's really cool when clans do that.
It's a great story. It's something you'd love to follow behind the scenes if you could, really.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that in Deadman in general, though, isn't there? So we've seen a lot of clans now that are formed purely just because of Deadman, a lot of friendships that have been made, alliances between clans that typically would never have spoken before as well, and now super close. And it's just been fantastic to see the whole of that just evolve and develop as the game mode has also progressed.
The community of Deadman mode and like how many people know each other for so many years now and all these alliances and teams that they formed is just, it's honestly so spectacular. Just friendships in general, it's awesome, man.
And today, actually in just about a minute, is when we find out whether those teams can hold. When you mix teams of such large quantities who maybe didn't like each other at a time but now have a combined goal of winning the Deadman tournament, we'll have to see if there's any backstabbing, spying, as we've known this to happen. What's going to happen this tournament? Well, we'll find out in just a minute as I'm going to leave, and I'm going to leave you guys to take away the Deadman Summer 2019 finale.
As always, thank you, Chris. I really look forward to it, and let's see what's going to happen.
Yeah, let's jump right into it. Wow. The Deropian
Straight away, that was a
the bat.
close-up and a half, wasn't it? Bit of an intimidating look.
Almost, man. Like,
Why don't we get a zoom in on the poor old dragon killer there looking
Is
dude?
that going full gilded? No, what?
He's got followers.
My eyes are just looking at the bald chap with the bot look, and is that Rigondo who's there?
Sorry, how has he got full gilded? That's like so rare from Blue School. Oh, they've got the new drop table.
They're on the global drop table.
I was like, what? There's no way.
How many Deadmans have you talked about
Yeah,
again, Ian?
I know, right?
Yeah, okay.
Well, we're jumping right into it, and as you can see right now, this is the lead up where the fog is slowly going to get released and push players into a certain area. As you can see, it's popping up right now. I believe
Resistor Kill
looted himself from a chest, the Verox plate skirt and the Abyssal Whip. Do you want to talk us through briefly the chest information and what happens there?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that we thought about a long time ago in Deadman, it was, I'm not going to try and tell you how many because I'll just be wrong, but there was a point where we thought that this section of the Deadman build-up, the permadeath stage, was feeling a little bit stale, and we thought we'd add in a little bit of an incentive for people to go to particular areas. So there are 6 chests in total that essentially drop down at specified points on the map at specific times. They're all in like multi-locations, and they hold some pretty valuable pieces of gear. So you saw there, that first chest actually landed in Lumbridge and contained a Varix skirt and a whip. So if you're able to get a hold of that whip, it costs a fair bit in Deadman, because the only way you get hold of it, obviously, is through Slayer or getting really lucky with the global drop table.
It's very much a risk versus reward aspect of the game, where like, is it worthwhile you leaving your clan and leaving your alliance or leaving the direction you're going to try and pick yourself a potential item that can change the 1v1 stage for you?
Yeah, I mean, potential items, a Dragonfire shield, Infernal Cape.
DFS is huge.
Huge
There's
items.
barely any of them in the game right now. We'll probably get some stats of exactly what items are in the game sometime a little bit later. But just to touch again on the main info regarding the... actually, no, we're at the heat map. Do you want to explain what's going on here as well, Ben?
Yeah, so this is a fantastic tool that was developed by Jagex, which allows us to actually see where the most populated areas in the game are. So the bigger the circle, the more the players, okay? If you see more colour, that's because there's a lot more people there.
And that can let me get on to the exact what we're actually seeing here, which is the 2 alliances mainly, which is the Rot Alliance, I'm going to call them, which is about 250 to 300 people. We have clans like Rot, Cutthroat, CT that is, DL, which is Divine Legion, Tartar, World 45 clan, SV as well, one of the other 07 clans, doesn't play much DMM before. We have the Lit Alliance, another big name that we've seen many tournaments now. Lit, Frontline, Overtake, CD, CL, and GG as well, of course. There are a few other smaller clans in the midst as well. Apologies if I didn't catch any of your names out there, but...
They're both about 250 to 300 people total.
Yeah.
So we're looking at a
one.
50-50 fight here. It's then down to skill, isn't it?
It's then down to skill.
Oh, we're talking about skill here. We've got a pretty important fight here between this Mystic Monk and a Lonely Nub. Quite literally, with a Heron pet. Unfortunately, not going to be able to transfer over to the main game.
Getting a pet on that game mode after a week of just grinding out.
There's a few people here that are quite clearly there as easy pickings with bone crossbows and not the best gear. However, here looks like a full Mystic Warrior is about to be taken out. It's John Travolta. Great levels of imagination with RuneScape names, that's for sure. Hopefully, we're not going to see any ones that are, a little bit should be hidden. Yeah, offensive. That's a great term. Thank you for saving me as always.
It's great to see as well that we do have some of these hybrids that are confident enough to go outside of their teams and go out there and have some fun, because obviously the past week they've spent just grinding out non-stop. But they want to go out there and actually take part in some PvP as well. It's very hard during the week because there's so many teams out and people running around in max gear. So it's the last one. He wants to have some fun, this guy, and rack up a few kills while he still can and take down some of the competition.
And this is one of the things I was touching on in the beginning that I really appreciate from the content creator's perspective, is it's very easy, or not easy, but it is perhaps smarter even, to play a Deadman tournament hiding somewhere in the shadows, building up your account, getting everything ready, then getting into the 1v1s if you can. But we've got some people who are just having fun. They're enjoying the tournament. Whether they're creating content or not, this guy is just having fun. He might not get this kill, but he is having the time of his life, and that's all that matters.
Unless he's running into multi right now, isn't dare.
The other thing is that it might potentially be someone who was actually hoarding quite a lot of items that he could have actually used to benefit him if he was feeling a little bit, lacking in terms of gear or supplies. Every kill that you have that you get is a chance of obviously getting an upgrade. One of the things to point on is if you're familiar with Deadman mode, you'll know that typically the major cities are considered safe zones, and if you're actually not able to attack anyone in those zones, and if you enter them whilst you're schooled, you'll get attacked by the guards. When we enter the permadeath stage, all of those safe zones throughout the entire game are removed, so now the entire world is open to PvP. So if you are seeing people fight within Varrock or Falador or even Lumbridge, that's actually because that little section of the game has been removed for the purpose of actually getting through this stage now. It allows people to basically roam freely and not have to worry about any accidental deaths. looking at the heat map here now, we can obviously see a lot of those teams that before, when we're looking towards East Varrock Wilderness, the 3 clumps were there. We've actually got one of the larger circles now already heading straight up north towards their safe spot near towards Anacol. So currently sitting just by the lava maze. We have quite a huge amount of people actually that are idling around Falador and the surrounding area. Some people near Draenor. That seems like a pretty formidable force already. And this is the great way for you to kind of like, as a viewer, if you're looking at home now and if you're going to be hearing us, especially Ian when he's almost rapping through all of the different clan names
a bit excited, right?
and the action that's going on, almost consider that each one of these circles, if it's a big circle, that means that it's a lot of clans together. A smaller circle, you'll probably find that that's like a group of solo players that have decided to come together and group up as one formation.
Yeah, and just there you saw another chest was taken by a member just south of Falador, I believe. I believe it was a Carol's leather top and Aram's robe skirt, can't make me wrong.
It's like a Carol's skirt and an Aram's skirt.
Oh, even, okay, well, best tank top in the game, apart from Armadillo, of course, if you're, brave enough to go out there into the God Wars Dungeon.
And have we heard, some people have been brave and some people have been very well rewarded too.
Let's hold on to those stats for just a second. I just want to touch on something as we noticed in the heat map. These massive groups of clans moving forwards towards their destinations. Mm-hmm. One of the things that we do is obviously split them into 2 separate areas. We've got Falador and we've got Anacol, but we also give people a random destination to whichever one they go to. We split things up evenly. So if you're in a clan with 100 people, you'll probably have 50 of those people divided into one of the other safe zones. Mm-hmm. This is to help out with solo players a little bit more and the smaller teams.
And it makes it really interesting in terms of like defending and attacking perspectives. You never know what to expect. It's not just a straight, this clan versus this clan or this team versus this team. You don't know exactly who's going to be there in which areas either, which makes it quite interesting. A lot of the clans don't decide to go straight to the area. Some do. Some feel strong enough to defend. Like last time round, we saw Blazers and Fools taking Anacol and defending it just with such ease. They stayed there, didn't let anyone in, and that's why they made it through with so many players to the 1v1 and why they were able to take the win eventually.
The sheer amount of people in this unit here is insane. There's just so many people clumped up at this spot now. This is just fairly deep in the wilderness, Moss Giant location, just near where the Black Chin Chompers are. If you're known to skill in that area, you've probably been PK'd a few times. But yeah, one of the interesting things that happens with this permadeath stage, as Archie was mentioning, that the players get split out evenly between the 2 locations, is that you'll find that half of your team, maybe a third of your team, that you were expecting to be with you no longer are, but you're all probably using the same voice channels, so it becomes very difficult to coordinate between where players should be moving to, who they should be hitting off at one point in terms of the most damage, because they obviously want to make sure they take them down as fast as possible. So they're going to want to focus fire particular people, but at the same time they're going to need to be talking about the other clans that are trying to do the same to them. And we'll probably see, especially in this safe zone now, which the actual final safe zone is marked by the insides of these glowing orbs. So there's a huge square around Falador statue at the moment, and you can already see a clan in the corner here taking formation. Later on, it's going to be a bit of a game of cat and mouse. They're going to be going around in a circle as one clan moves into the other clan's then going to move around until they pick off people that are a little bit slow. The stragglers, they'll start to dwindle down, and then when the team is about a good enough size so that they feel confident enough to push, we'll probably just see mass carnage ensue, and then both or 3 teams potentially will go in and completely massacre.
That guy in the black full helmet, full black DI Dorgish and cross, so he's played the whole week, been grinding out, and he just waits there at Falador, and that whole team just
no chance.
Him pretty much. Bless him.
I think this chest here is probably one of the most valuable, aside from the Dragonfire Shield. If you're looking for those melee hits, if anyone's going to be taking those chances, you're going to be looking at getting an Infernal Cape and a Fury, I believe.
I think Varrock is actually...
Oh no, this is Varrock.
And
yeah, I can't read or see apparently. So
a couple of quick things, guys. Real quick, we have less than 900 players remaining, so things are moving very smoothly. It's nice to see the combat early on. We appreciate that. And then Ian, I wanted to ask you a little bit about an average player's journey, because you actually, while you cast these, you do tend to play a lot of Deadman tournaments when you can. So if I'm an average player, let's say I can maybe log 4 hours a day, what is my typical gear setup going to look like come a Deadman finale?
4 hours a day. I mean, you might as well just log out right then and then, man. You got to be able to put the time in for the entire week. It's a tournament, for crying out loud, for $32,000, might I add. Well, to be honest, when I usually play, when I have played in the past, I've been with a team, so I've been enjoying myself, going out to like PvP, try and lock down certain areas such as the Shiloh Cave. Actually, I was a part of that force. Any second, I actually have the chest dropping right here. And just touch on this part as well. This is probably what I'd be doing if I'd been playing 4 hours a day. I'd be one of these guys that's get up in a little bit of loot.
Hope to get something good.
Going to try and get something and run back to the clan and give it to one of my stronger members to
I'm a
feed
solo
them
player. I'm a 4 hours a day average solo player. Help me out.
I do think it's like, without having the experience of playing in the tournaments myself, I do think it's possible to get geared at this point, because obviously at the moment everyone's frantically trying to get together with their teams. Maybe people
we saw an AGS there,
nice
51.
hit. An AGS as well in the game right now. It's going to be interesting if we sit in the 1v1s. But also, you've got the opportunity, if you've been playing 4 hours a day, you are running around and picking up scraps. Get whatever loot is on the floor. I think is your best bet.
Okay.
But for that kind of play, which you could consider to be relatively casual in the grand scheme of things, you probably would have been better off playing in the seasonal for fun.
Yeah.
And with 4 hours a day in the season, you could perfectly well be in a position to be at the similar level of what these guys now are in the tournament.
There are a lot of guys that play semi-actively. Oh, here we go, the chest is coming up right now. Just see who grabs this item. It's a big one, and it looks like Admiral's got it.
There he is, he's going south.
If we can follow him,
We can
whoever
see
it
him.
was. Is that him? Oh, it's
That's
actually
him.
him.
It
85 combat. What an absolute waste. He is definitely going to be able to use that in final. But potential, to be honest.
Well, this is what 4 hours a day gets you. Full Black Dragon High, some Rune, and 85 combat
And
against
straight off the
someone in
bat,
max.
these guys are going straight for him. I don't know if they actually get the imbued part of the ring as well when it drops to the floor. I don't think they do, unless it's they've changed that since
Well,
before. But
there are certain
Sears rings,
things, Dragonfire shields, I should say. Well, you don't
Still
pick those
charged.
up empty. You pick them up charged.
you do.
don't you?
The imbue though, I'm not 100% sure. I mean, maybe if he gets the imbue, it's definitely worth trying to get this guy. And you do not get the imbue. You do not get the imbued. Apparently, Ben is shaking his head, saying no, you don't get the item. Okay, well, in which case, still the Sears ring is huge. Obviously, we talked about briefly earlier Rot holding down the Lunar Diplomacy book spell, and with that, you can teleport to Waterbirth Island. So they've been camping not just the Lunars, but also Waterbirth. So they access to DKs.
Yep.
So not many clans have been able to actually, utilize them and grab those rings that you need. The Berserker ring for those extra max hits, or the Sears ring, which is huge for magic accuracy because it can be so hard to catch freezes on the guys with Armadillo on. And looks like right now this man in his third age drove.
Oh, there he goes. Two decent hits and he's out of there.
Yeah,
Out
you
of
can
the
take
game.
that home. But I mean, even without the imbue on it, it's still a nice +6, I believe, for the Sears ring, which is definitely
+4.
helpful. +4?
Yep.
Oh, it's +4 now. I don't really.
It's +4 on unimbued.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did I really just say +6? +4.
That's all right.
Anyway, so yeah, I mean, not many clans were able to actually go to get those rings. So having one of those right now is pretty huge. I spoke briefly to GG, who were able to go to DKs a little bit, but not as much as they thought they were able to. I want to talk a little bit more about the clans if I'm able to before we get into the 1v1 area. So one of the clans is GG, who. This is their second tournament as a proper clan, quotation marks, proper clan. They played for many clans before as a solo alliance, but now in the last couple of tournaments they've worked much more uniquely to other clans, and they went for Sara kills. Went down to Gorwa's dungeon, got 1,000 Sara kills as a unit. They got, I think, 4 ACBs, 7 SGSs, 15 Sara swords, 10 Sara lights, unfortunately. They had no Lunars, but they still managed to get DS2 bolts, apparently, from some other teams as well. They have a few members, not going to name any names just yet, but from one of the previous tournaments, Crab Emoji we saw in the rerun, he got top 4, I believe, which is one of the first times GG's got on that far. And these guys, like I said before, they've been around for a while, and their best moments in a group is just, as solo players coming together to form a team with a totally unique experience, because they're all from DMM. A lot of these other clans from 07, and they have history, but these guys just come together because they just love the game mode, basically.
I think it's one of the main clans that we touched on before that have formed just purely around Deadman mode in general, and now stuck together. And do they have any intentions to carry on past Deadman?
So yeah, they're gonna play, I believe, 07 after this, and wait until DMMT comes back again.
Okay.
They're very different to a lot of the other clans, where obviously there's a lot of trash talking gets involved, and it's a very competitive atmosphere. But GG like to relax apparently, and they have a zero tolerance for that kind of stuff as well.
They're one of the newer clans, and I believe Skill Specs was playing with them.
So we've got loads of content creators with them actually. We have Skill Specs who joined them. We have C Engineer. We have Sparkmac with the Tribe. We have Sick Nerd, who's joined them for the final hour. He's got all his own stuff by himself. Torvester as well, actually, another huge content creator who's joining GG. And Kemp Q as well, who's joined right for the final hour, just to make sure that he's got a better chance to get into those 1v1s through the multi-phase. And these guys are part of that massive Lit Alliance that I was talking about briefly before. And the reason for that is they hate one of the other teams in another alliance, which is Tartar.
Right.
They used to be in an alliance with them a long time ago, but they got backstabbed and they were fed up of it, and all the mean talking in clan chats. They're out there today to, to try and get the revenge. And once again, try and get one of their members through. They've geared up a couple of people with some insane gear as well, which is awesome. And
so, just real quick, I was talking about this a little bit earlier. With these clans, with these hundreds of people in their team, they tend to find a few people. Maybe is it 3 or 5, Ian? How many people would you say you would feed if you were a clan of 100?
Well, I mean, for a clan of 100, I'd say, yeah, around 3 to 5 people that give up, max gear, and that's what they're all doing the whole way through. They've got certain members that, have this kind of guideline, like, go do smithing for us, go get us our rune crossbows, go do crafting, so you make everyone black D-hide sets. And you mentioned before how, what if I can only play 4 hours a day? Well, those are the times where you do join a clan, because then, you're helping in such a way that is needed for the clan. Even if you're only playing a few hours a day, they need that, that extra help. So.
But if these guys who get fed get taken out, if their names get leaked by anybody in the team, they get taken out. Somebody else immediately gets all of their things.
I'm being very careful not to leak any of their names just yet.
But I think there's a common tactic at the moment, though, isn't there, where players will have their absolute very best gear if they plan to go into the 1v1s kept in the bank. Because you get to a chance when you hit that 1v1 stage to resupply, take everything out that you want, and then that's when they'll bring out their gear. So if they do fall, they'll lose what they're wearing, but they maybe won't give away, for example, those special attack weapons, which you just don't need in this multi-section.
Exactly.
Oh, we've just had a chest drop, actually. This one being the Carol's leather top and Aram's robe top, which went to I think I can't really.
It's definitely a backwards name.
Yeah,
I couldn't read it.
It was too fast.
All right. Well, congratulations to that player. We've got some stats on the screen, Ben. Can you see any of those?
I can see some players' names.
All right.
But I'm not going to read them out because I don't want to leak anyone's actual names just yet.
That's a fair point, to be honest.
Yeah. But there was a few big names in here. For example, we've got Abdullah. We also have Nankt, I can see in there. Also, I believe we were looking at Sick Nerd Boaty as well. Yeah. And so we were aware of the accounts that they're playing on. We'll be following them throughout the tournament.
I would appreciate updates on these guys, trying to figure out who was in these massive clumps of people, particularly the Gilded guy. But very shortly...
Well, there's another one right there.
Yeah.
Two full Gilded peaks.
Very shortly, we're moving into the fog, pushing these players into the Falador and then Anakarl areas, which means players will start dying. We still have 850 players remaining. So people are dying, but a little bit more slowly right now. People are starting to appreciate this is the last Deadman.
Yeah, if you compare this one directly to the spring finals, we were sitting around about a similar number until probably 3 to 5 minutes from now, and then suddenly, for whatever reason, the clans decided that was the perfect time for them to all join in and attack. And you just look at the swarms of players here. I think the difference being, as you mentioned rightly so, this is the last Deadman tournament as we know it. So people are going to be making sure that they are doing the best that they can, because their names are going to go down in history.
Yeah, well, everyone remembers the last one, don't they? And
exactly.
I believe, whoever wins this tournament doesn't just have the $32,000 potentially to gain from it, but also to say, this is the last demo mode. Yep. We are now undefeated. We took all the other clans over, which is I think why Rot has decided to come out again and play. For many tournaments, Rot, the big bad guys a lot of people talk about, many tournaments ago they won, they took each one by storm and one by a landslide, but then other clans started to catch on as well, and they seemed like less of a threat. They were still playing, never really contacted people about it, tried to keep on the down low, pride at stake of course, and all the PKing egos and such from many clans, but recently, this time round, they have come back, like I said briefly earlier. They decided to form a huge alliance as well, so we should be able to see some Rot players in here. I didn't get very much information from Rot because, like I said before, they're very secret about it and they don't really trust anyone with anything. So the few things that I've had from them is that because, obviously, the other clans locked down Shiloh last time, gave them an idea of locking down lunar diplomacy as well, like I mentioned earlier, which has given them a huge advantage in terms of their alliance. Has lots of vengeance tanks, which is a really powerful build. And it's their first official one, like I said, for a few times. Their biggest fear, the only other information they gave me was their biggest fear, which is the front page of Reddit. So maybe that's going to happen still, who knows? And one of the top PKs being fed. I got even a few names, but the one that was most notable was Rot Salad, who still plays today. And in the old DMMs, you saw him running around and killing all the content creators and being an absolute behemoth of a beast. So that should be pretty cool to see how far they get to.
All right, well, we're still watching this clan. This clan here is moving up to Anakarl. And they're not looking to get into any conflict here. We've got actually 2 massive groups. This group here might be moving up towards them if they are making their way to Anakarl. We don't know how much time they have left to get there, but they are going to have to cross that border. You can see that team covering the gap between the 2 points of lava.
Yeah, I would probably say that these guys definitely aren't the same team. I see right here, one of these teams, something around singles now, obviously, and really importantly as well, it's important to know exactly where the single lines are, the multi-lines. What I mean by that is there are certain squares and certain areas in RuneScape in the wilderness as well, whereby it's 1v1 content and it's multi-content. So if you have a team that's sitting around in singles, waiting around before having that final push, you're less likely to be sniped by another team or caught out of position. And those positioning and those traits and those strategies that they've come up with over many tournaments and many years, even playing 07 as well, is what really gives people an edge in these multi-fights. But right now, looking at Falador again, we have one clan to the southwest defending the night, I believe, and it looks like they're actually, again, like I said before, in single-way combat, so they're pretty safe over there up until they're forced to move out by the fog. We have a few other large forces to the east as well, and they're going to be moving in very soon as well. I'm not too sure which team belongs to which yet. We still have a few stragglers as well, all clan scouts that are looking around, looking for those chests to spawn up, so they're able to get those really powerful items. And I believe this one right here is going to be the Dragonfire Shield, potentially.
Well, we've already seen the Carol's Body and the Arms Body, so this one does look like the Dragonfire Shield at Graveyard of Shadows. Yep,
which is a huge item, especially coming into those final 1v1 sections. The defense of it is just incredible. Also, the melee strength really helps if you're going to go in for that hybrid build.
It's definitely a best in slot for tank gear.
Absolutely.
And, whatever build you are, you need it. And this guy here running away, oh my god, he actually managed to get some good distance here. He's got two rat bolters behind him. He doesn't have something like defense, looking at it, but that guy there, really smartly with the Carol's Coif, he has the Morrigan's throwing axes. Using the special attack, actually drains your opponent's energy a little bit faster.
Wow, okay, he just ran into the...
He ran into the fog, didn't
he? Oh, he just got someone else killed though. 2 people! 3 people, what are you doing? Run!
Can anyone even get that DFS now, or is it gone in the fog? The fog has taken it.
What a brilliant tactic. And
wow.
Dear oh dear.
If I can't have it, nobody can.
I think we saw that
silly
last
mistake of those players to run in and follow them.
That's not the first time this happened. Last tournament, we had the exact same thing.
Yep.
Where people ran away.
As well.
Yeah, and he managed to get like 4 or 5 people killed that were following in after him, which was just magnificent to see.
Dear oh dear. Actually, do you know what? I'm going to give you a random, really quick, easy quiz, okay? Can either of you two guess which is the most common item currently in Deadman mode tournament?
Most common item?
How many? There's the most count.
Tuners.
No, it's going to be like a bolt or a rune.
Oh, yes.
According to this list, I probably should have said, because it might not be
Can it be like
to
a
the
water
entire game. You've got one guess, quick go.
Okay, water rune.
Water rune, okay.
It's a water rune?
No, it's on this list, so the runes aren't on this list, so Chris is wrong.
Tuner.
No, black chin chompers.
Wait, the most in the final
270,000 of them currently in the tournament.
Who needs that many chins?
Well, everyone does for this section. Do you not? Wait a few minutes, Archie, and you will see those chins go flying. You will see all of them.
How long would it take them to catch? I guess they've had a week to do it.
Well, it wasn't one person, Ian.
Well, there's only one spot, isn't there? Well, a couple spots there, but there's only one world. So that means whichever clan locked down the area. But I guess they might be on different rotors, like
so there are like 2 main sections where they can farm them in the wilderness there. So yeah, quite a lot.
Do you want to touch on why the black chin chompers are so important for the final?
Absolutely. So we'll be seeing in the sections leading up to this where everyone's confined into that actual final safe zone, which I mentioned earlier, which is indicated by the glowing orbs on the floor. Well, that's a multi-combat zone, and chin chompers are a multi-combat ranged weapon. It's actually quite brutal. You throw this cute little creature, it explodes, and upon exploding, it damages all players in a radius a certain amount of tiles around where it had originally hit. So they're really fantastic for actually just completely mowing down large groups of enemies. A similar spell, a similar thing that you'll also see is a spell called Ice Barrage. It's one of it's the highest level spell from the ancient magics that people will be utilizing in this tournament most likely.
Blood Barrage as well.
Because Blood Barrage, Ice Barrage, it's got a great ability of being able to AOE damage players with magic, but it also freezes them in place for 20 seconds, regardless of them using protection prayers. Unlike the much weaker versions of Entangle and Snare and the such like. And then, as Archie mentioned, also Blood Barrage, which is like this big red spell that will appear. That deals AoE damage again, but it doesn't freeze players. It actually heals the user who casted the spell a certain portion of the damage that they actually end up dealing. So if you can imagine, you hit in 8 people with one spell, you basically get into full HP every time that hits. So it's really useful for conserving food and supplies and making sure that you can survive for as long as possible when this section really is about outlasting all of the others and making sure you're not that straggler. Because if you are lacking supplies, the clans are probably going to tell you to start to start tailing off from the main group as a distraction and hoping to slow down the other groups so that they can catch other people off guard too.
Yeah, and the skill really comes in with these multi-fights. Of course, a lot of people will be like, oh, multi-fights, that's nothing, you just left click and you just wait and everyone just like piles different people. There's a lot of skill that comes into it. As you can see here, these guys are making a long line to make sure their members are spread out, because if you get caught in these clumps by these chin-chompers, by these barrages,
devastating.
by these AoE damage spells and effects, then you're going to get full like flies in seconds. It's really important to be able to wrap around and to move as a whole unit. Yeah. And it's like a good comparison is like an ant kind of colony. You know how they all like move together and work together. It's a bit like that in multi, isn't it? That's really a really terrible example.
No, I think
we
it's
talked about ants earlier outside. So it just came to me, man.
At the end of the day, a single player is obviously going to be weaker than an entire unit. You know, you wouldn't send one man into a war because you'd want to send in bigger numbers.
So when you're warring, one of the most important things is having integral callers, people who can call the shots. So you meet everybody else in TeamSpeak or Discord.
That's not me, by the way.
What's that?
That's not me.
Oh, you're not
sure.
a caller.
No,
okay.
I wouldn't be a
I probably
caller.
wouldn't be either.
Or a listener. I'm neither of those.
All right. And then you call the shots. So you tell everybody to move north, and they all do, and you can watch it. It's actually quite beautiful. And then they throw their chins, they cast their barrages, whatever they need to do. But if that caller dies, if that caller gets leaked and then sniped, you're down to the next caller. If you haven't got a next caller and so forth, your team's pretty much done.
The thing is, these alliances, they have like, several teams. As I said before, very briefly, we had like the Lit GGOT frontline one, and we had the ROT one as well with CT, Execution, Tartar, SV. There's some huge alliances out there. So to be in TeamSpeak with all these people, we even have like a Swedish clan in here as well. Obviously the Fools aren't playing. Team Sweden, Swedish only. That's all I can really get out of them. The language barrier was a little bit difficult to find some information, unfortunately. They have 5 people fully max geared and 6 VLSs, unless that's propaganda they're feeding me. But so to be in Discord with all these different people that you don't really know that well, you've come together for this alliance, give yourselves the best chance of getting to the 1-versus-1 finale. Yeah. You've got different people that are calling for you, different leaders, and you've got to just kind of just trust them and put your faith in them. They're going to lead your team into victory. And there's a lot of spies going on as well, of course, to try and leak enemy locations and enemy tactics and such. It's always going to be changing on the fly. It's really riveting. Could
you get rewarded, I wonder, if you spy for a clan and bring that information back to your team?
They definitely pay. They pay good money to.
You have experience with this, Ian?
Not as a spy,
of course.
But,
right.
Oh, not as a spy, but as a supplier of spies.
So, guys, with the fog moving in quickly, we can see players moving very, very slowly into their final destinations. I'd like to see if we can see the heat map once again. So there we have it. We have 4 massive clumps that will need to make their way to Anakral. One team is already there, one to the east, one southeast, and the smaller team we just saw was actually northwest. And that team looked huge, and that's making just such a small little circle on the map.
Yeah. I think we'll see in a few moments, I think it's really difficult because it's a dangerous game as to, are you going to get the advantage of defending? Absolutely, if one team comes in at a time. But what happens if all 3 of those teams that are surrounding Anakal at the moment surround the one team who is left inside? It's very difficult for them to be able to then coordinate who they're meant to be attacking. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this pans down, because there's no shadow of a doubt that if that smaller team that is currently northwest of Anakal actually enters before the rest of them start coming through, they are going to get wiped out. Because look at the difference in numbers.
Well, they might be alliance as well. You're not too sure about that one yet, but
just to point out something real quick, this massive team that's holding down Anakral, they have no skulls. They have been walking there and just sitting, while this team, the smaller Northwest team, might have lost some numbers. They've been enjoying themselves. They've been killing people.
It looks like the smaller Northwest team is allianced with the Eastern team, but it looks like as well we've got a few BSs, backstabbers, or spies, like we talked about briefly before, who are trying to take down a few members, or they're just misclicking with their fat fingers because they're quite tired from being up all week. That could probably be the case.
Well, I mean, the weather as well across the entirety of Europe right now is extremely hot, so I wouldn't be surprised if those mice are slipping out of their hands.
So Northwest, one of the clans I've not actually talked about very much, who won the last rerun, Bellis we spoke about briefly, was Blazers. And they usually team up with Fools, but since Fools are taking the summer off, this time they're doing a solo competition. So a bit about Blazers this time around. End of day 2, they had apparently 80 to 100 accounts or so Rot had on a Lunar Diplomacy defending it. So on Monday, everybody got the requirements for Lunars, and using their knowledge from holding down Shiloh, they attacked at 7:15 a.m. Eastern, which is when most of the Rot players, if they're American, were offline, and they were able, with a 33-man team, to take over. They even brought people who were doing Dragon Slayer 2 that were hugely geared up, even skulled up, even like lose their stats potentially. They killed a Rot member at Rune Dragons in Solo Missions video. Definitely go check that one out. And I think it's been their best performance so far, they've said. So maybe they've created some kind of alliance or agreement where they're off that team potentially because they're running around as a solo smaller force, or they're lying to me, and like many clans do, and maybe they're hiding in all these different teams.
Ultimately, someone is going to have to fall eventually because we can only take in the top 256 players from this, and they're going to have to pick and choose the best. I do have some information I just want to quickly touch on because you just mentioned Lunar Diplomacy. There's actually only been 61 players able to complete the quest as of midnight, or this morning.
And out of at least 1,000 people we must have had in this tournament, I wonder if any of those will actually make it into the 1v1s.
There's definitely a good chance.
It's a very small number when you consider in
the
grand scheme of things, it's less than 10%. So it's very crazy to see just so little. Desert Treasure, 244 players. The least completed quest is Monkey Madness 2, which only 2 players have completed as of midnight.
Was one of them solo mission?
So, I mean, it must have been.
Good strat. Here we see some movement, guys. We are moving.
Here we go. So the clan from the east are starting to move in and attack towards the west, and all we can see right now is just these poor baby chinchompas flying at each other and exploding, combusting on impact. But right now it's all about the clan, like I said before, trying to react and move as a huge squad, trying to avoid these flying balls of fur. Exploding balls of fur.
And now here we go, a whole force is storming on. This looks like it's the battle for Sparta, and the players are going to be going in. You're going to be seeing a huge amount of damage numbers coming through. Players are going to be trying to focus those Ice Barrage spells, freeze them in place, which then lets the rest of the team focus. You'll be seeing a lot of these icons above players' heads. They're protection prayers. Protect from range is effective against Chinchompas. Protect from magic, which looks like the little magic missile bolt. That's obviously effective against Ice and Blood Barrage. But the thing is, multiple people, 2 different attack types. It's impossible to pray against 2 things at once, so you have to really pick and choose what you're using to pray against.
And I will say one thing straight away. It looks like whoever's defending Anakal right there,
the fog just wiped out 10
fantastic.
people.
Really? No, the fog did, but they did a fantastic job of defending as well. As the players from the east were flying in, they were able to hold their ground extremely well. And unfortunately, I think we're pausing right now as something has just occurred.
So we do have a mechanic built into the game that if something happens that isn't to our liking, I believe. It immediately pauses everything.
It's like a default fail-safe, if I believe. So it may just be, it may not be that there was nothing wrong, and it was just the fact that so many people hadn't moved out of the fog, because there were a huge amount of people that were frozen there at that time. It could have been the fog progressed, they fell out, but those automatic fail-safes are just making sure that we have time to actually go and check to see if there was anything amiss. So for now, we're just going to assume that we're just all okay, and that until we hear more, we'll let you know.
While the game's paused, they're all sitting there right now, and everyone in the team is like, you see this guy here? That level 97? Yeah, right click, get ready to go. And they're all just waiting like on the edge of their seats for the game to continue, and bam, and all jump on someone at the same time. It must be so riveting to be in TeamSpeak right now.
You know what? It's one of the things that I actually wish I could have done. I've never been in a Deadman finale. I played a couple of seasons, never bothered to actually try to get into a tournament, and I'm actually regretting it. I'm hoping that it comes back. Well, it's going to come back, obviously, but I hope to actually bother to try to participate in one of the tournaments. If I'm not hosting.
I mean, I still have to say, hands down, one of the most fun times that I've had was the very first Deadman season. It was a time when I was just getting back into Old School, and I was starting to get that kind of like the passion and drive to play, and then Deadman came about, and then I just remember for the next basically 2-3 weeks, me and one of my very close friends just both played alongside one another. And I mean, I was playing, it was way before times of before I was streaming, before I was at Jagex, before I was even at the job before then. And we were just playing all day, 24/7. I was playing whilst at work until 4 a.m. But it looks like we're back into things, so it was just one of those things.
It was one of those things. It was a fail-safe. Too many people died at the same time. That is the mistake of the players for not getting into their safe zone when the fog went off.
What a way to go as well, leading up to that whole finale, and then you just get taken up by the fog. That must be so depressing.
And
anyway,
you said about like these moments in now of TeamSpeak and the amount of hectic times that are going on. This is exactly the moment that the deafen button was invented for.
I want to just point out one player to the southeast or in the right corner with the Dragon Med helm. He's the only guy not moving. Look at him.
The reason why he's got that,
so composed.
He's got the spear in hand, and the special attack of that spear is like a dragon spear, I think. Or he might have a dragon spear on him.
It's a Vestus spear.
Oh, it's a Vestus spear. Okay, well, in which case, it's a special attack. It hits damage back around players around him. So he's like a suicide kind of squad about to fly in at the right moment. But oh my god, look at those
people are falling so fast.
They clear them so fast, exactly.
Considering like previous tournaments, damage numbers that are flying out here, it just seems like people really know how to focus people. There's no more of the running around. Okay, never mind. They're running around in a circle now. This is where you get like a school of fish, very well coordinated.
That's better than ants.
Yeah, and if you get definitely school of fish, perfect. But if you get left behind in these situations, it's like, well, sorry, man, just try and catch up. But
so if I can make a quick comment here, what's going to happen here is one of the clans is going to become victorious. Obviously, they'll have many players left in this area. They may have to kill some of their own if they have more than the 164. 128 rather, in each area.
Each area, yep.
And if they do, they're going to have to choose the players to go into the final area. Now, it's one thing to survive this final area, but you don't get anything if you do that. You have to then go into the 1v1s,
and make it
be
through.
competent, and destroy your opponent, beat him, then beat the next guy, and so forth, until you're the last player standing.
Yeah, and I talked to a few of the teams actually about this, and one of the teams in particular that told me about their strategies for the final area was OT, who's part of one of the alliances, and they said that they have they all fight back, unlike other clans. They have an advantage in experience despite numbers. You know, usually when clans get into these fights, they start to panic. Yeah, I know, right? They start to spam click the brews and putting on Phoenix necklaces as well to try and stay alive as best they can.
They don't fight back. They just try.
Yeah,
to live.
they just try and live. This team, they're saying to me that they're very confident,
very aggressive,
and aggressive play, and that's again about comes down to the experience of these multi-clans. Even if you're an amazing 1v1 PKer, you might not be so experienced in these calls and in these moments and knowing exactly how to react.
The thing is, it kind of makes sense at the same time though, because if you're on the forefront of the aggression and you're the one that's dealing all of that damage out, whilst you're eating, you're not able to do anything else. Your actions are limited, they're blocked because it's taken up by food. So you're not able to dish more damage back out. So the more damage you can deal to your opponent safely, the less damage in turn you're also going to take. And that's like one of the fundamentals of PvP in general. You know, if you can force your opponent to constantly be eaten, they have no opportunity to be able to hit you back. Very small windows, but overall it's a lot less.
In addition, a strategy we're not seeing too much of, or maybe it's because they're purely all frozen, but if you are a massive team, if you run into another team and they're using AoE spells and chin chompas, it begins to kind of be a little bit detrimental for the team, doesn't it? So
it's all about positioning, and if you can outposition your opponents and you can have a better spread, so you're not too far clumped, then ultimately it's a numbers game. If you have 50 people that are hitting maybe 10 in a pile, whereas they're only hitting like the occasional 2 or 3 piles, you're going to take down that 10 pile super fast, and as a result, you move forward and you win the fight.
So to point out, we have 560 players left, maybe slightly less than that now. We need to lose nearly half of that, actually.
I mean, that number tallies, it's actually less than the number of 2 clans that I've got information on here together. So you were talking earlier about these huge alliances.
Yep.
According to those that we're aware of, in terms of the system tying them into clans, the top 4 in terms of player numbers, number 1 being Lit, started this tournament, this permadeath stage off with 253 members.
253?
Yep.
Well, they definitely lied to me about their numbers then, didn't they?
I mean, that's by affiliation, so it's not obviously 100% accurate. We then had Rot, which apparently had 236 players. Blazers with 173 players.
Oh, that must be an alliance then.
I just had to, sharp inhale because of 73. It always appears, no matter what happens. We're plagued now.
Quality
and then GG actually managed to put together decent numbers, 170.
Wow. Okay, so they've managed to recruit, or maybe there's some of the smaller teams I talked about, like Team Sweden, like Overtake, like CT and Frontline that have amalgamated into those other forces right there. But sounds really interesting.
What we also know from previous Deadman tournaments is out of these 250 in perhaps Lit, you might even see that 20 of those are Rot.
Yeah, well, I mean that too, especially. Yeah, they're trying to take people down, backstab from the inside. When I spoke to Lit briefly, though, they did say they've been gearing up quite a few members. We talked about Inya briefly before. He's one of the main guys. They've been gearing up from tournament to tournament since they've joined forces with Frontline. They also have GG on their side, and we said a minute ago that GG have 170 players. So that is a huge alliance together. And OT as well, one of the smaller clans. Like I said, they were really confident in the multi-phase. Maybe that's why they're able to get this far and gives them the slight advantage over other teams potentially.
We have so many experienced players that are in Deadman now. Obviously, we've said how many times it's been on and how much people have learned and strategized, and really this is the penultimate one. So
And
you know what I mean.
Sorry, I'm just going to take a second to mention something we haven't mentioned yet, actually, is many streamers and even teams with a delay, perhaps, are streaming this finale. So if you want to watch ours as well as somebody else's, get a few different perspectives, it's definitely a smart strategy. Load up those streams, watch these
Get that
guys.
multi-Twitch up. Come on, guys.
If they get into the 1v1s, it is absolutely quality watching it from a first-person perspective.
Yeah, no, for sure. And they're all fantastic in terms of their entertainment value or just their actual skills. So do give them a watch, and if not, drop them a follow, show them some love.
I just hope the skill specs are still alive, so we can see as Carol Darrocking in the final if he's still going with that method.
This has got to be the one tournament where he finally makes it through all the issues and actually makes it into the 1v1s and gets to put on a show.
Here's hoping.
436 players remaining.
Already?
We still have to lose nearly a couple hundred of those.
Okay.
But there will be a point where if it gets to a stalemate and it's just taking too long, Fog will start to approach in that centre, I do believe, right, and slowly tick down players.
We'll slowly bring in the Fog. Nothing enough to kill somebody immediately, just enough to remind them you
start
should be
taking down their HP, just melting them a little bit more than the European sun is at the moment.
Yeah, like right here, I can see actually two huge forces there, the east side and the west side, both trying to wrap around. Like I said before, if you get left behind, then you get picked off, and it all comes down to really which team can pick off the most members first until there's those 128 players remaining. I even saw a few guys in max gear actually falling right there, but like we said previously too, you can't just be running around in circles trying to hide in your clan, because then your clan's going to lose. Every single person does matter in these situations, and if you have 10-20% that are just walking around, not knowing exactly what they're doing, like on a hot summer's day, it's not going to do very much for your team.
So really milking this hot summer day.
Yeah, I know. We're British. What do you expect? We love to moan, especially about the weather. So it's just what it is. Ian, yes. You've obviously played Deadman before. You've not been able to experience the finals in Deadman because you've always had the fortunate opportunity to be able to commentate them, but you have participated in the betas and done really well. Is it possible? Would you be able to run through us what might be going through these players' minds right now in this situation? Bearing in mind there's less than 500 players left. They're really starting to get down, and all the actions ensuing.
Yeah, sure. So the 1v1 begins. Suddenly the leader in the TeamSpeak says, "Quiet, everyone listen," and you start a chant going, naming your best PK, trying to get closer and closer to the final. Whoever it is, you're trying to hype them up. Then suddenly the whole TeamSpeak gets muted, and no one can talk, so no one can put each other off. And you're sitting there, final by final, round by round, waiting to see if your iconic PKs can make it through right to the end. And it's a great community event really for these guys. A lot of the clans told me that beforehand, even before the tournament even starts, they sit in TeamSpeak, do movie nights, all that kind of stuff, or Discord, whatever they're using.
Yeah.
And it's very exciting for them.
So they're basically prolific e-daters.
I mean, your words, not mine.
All right, so back to the action, guys. We have 383 players remaining. What this clan to the west is noticing, I believe, now is that they do have more numbers than the clan on the east.
So and attack.
If this Fog ends up pushing in and doing some numbers, they're gonna need to kill the opposing team, because if they have more food, they'll get more players through. So they really need to be pushing them, making that damage happen, trying to take out their numbers. They're making very slow rotations, but the other team is just slowly moving away.
Well, they're both dwindling now down to very few amounts, and one of the clans is going to make a push at some point, and when they get that opening, when they manage to get that clump, that freeze, you just tell all their members straight away, guys, help out here. If we can take down these 10-20 players, we've got a real shot at making it through to these 1v1s. And those big PKs that they've got in there, the ones that they've fed the whole entire way through, who have the best in slot gear, the VLS, the Zuriel staff, the Barrows gear.
Those guys, someone's about to get picked off in the corner here. It's being speared out, and there's just so many people hitting him, and instantly just falls after the spear.
Dragon Spear absolutely lethal. We watched Fool's Justice win and then play on stage for us next.
And
obviously being the winner, a very high target. Taken out of the game by Dragon Spear.
Yeah,
simple as that.
A lot of these guys do try and pick out those names to try and target them to give themselves the best chance of going through. Of course, this multi-phase is just as important as the 1v1, and it's essential in making sure you've got the best chance possible if you get those huge beasts to go through for you. Looking around now as well, within the inside of the what is this? It's like a looter's paradise right now. I just see dragon armor sets and legs and stuff everywhere.
There's just literally stuff
everywhere. It is quite an odd amalgamation of players here. Which team is which? We can see one to the northwest, we can see one just kind of to the south, and then there's just random players everywhere else.
We always see this strategy right inside the actual Anacard itself, to the bottom of the screen right now. You see all those players with their overheads up, stacking up, and they're just hiding in the corners. The thing about this is there's only one way in, one way out. So if a clan tries to rush them, chances are they're going to get frozen and then clumped with those AoE damage abilities that we talked about before, the Chinchompers.
We also saw it backfire at once though, didn't we? Because everyone was already in that area and they managed to take them. They were just overwhelmed and they just instantly got taken out because they weren't able to have a good spread on them like the rest of these two.
It looks like this time round though, whoever's in the middle is a clan that's knows exactly what they're doing, and they don't have any spies in there, because it was very easy for the southern side or the northern side. So you see right there, they're taking out one person at a time. Maybe there are some spies in there, to be honest, man, and they're trying to take down the more valuable players or the biggest threats to them.
It could also be, the reality is that this might literally just be two teams, but they're split into 3 different areas, and they're now deciding which of their members they need to kill off, and that they don't want to progress through to the 1v1s and saying, look, unfortunately, Jimmy, you've worked for us all week. You've got everything we needed. We don't need you anymore. It's time to sit in the corner and watch.
We're not quite to that point yet. We've got 326 players remaining.
I mean, that will go soon. We've got 256. That's 70 to go. And when we're seeing one clump, which now looks like the whole force are going through, there's 2 really good barrages there. That's going to have caught at least 5-6 players. And they're going to be just taken down because they'll get overwhelmed. The other team are going to try and defend, but it looks like they've actually just decided to avoid combat entirely and and run to the opposite side, leaving what looks like 10 or so of their members just alone.
These guys are being forced to eat constantly, but it's not enough. They've got too much target AoE.
And just like that, there you go, 3, 4, 5, 6 dropped.
And those guys that did drop as well, they had like the Darox helms, the tank gear on them, so those guys might have been some of the stronger players that were geared up for that finale. But no, that's unfortunate. That's the end
that
for them.
DFS walking around, that's a prime target.
I see is that an Armadillo?
Trying to blend into the crowd.
Helm as well. Some guys got an Armadillo helm as well, which is quite interesting.
Well, we definitely have seen a lot of boss kills going out here. I think in terms of like Saradomin kills alone, Commander Ziliana 736 times, which was just insane. Kriara was killed 482 times this tournament. So yeah, quite a huge amount of players out there deciding to boss as opposed to level.
And you've got some data there on quests completed. We talked about lunar diplomacy. It looks like 244 players total.
For Desert Treasure, that was, yeah.
Keeping that in mind, that's a small percentage of the total players, which means we might see many players in the final 256 without any magic at all.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, I think as well, a lot of the clans in terms of their numbers, like I made, the little joke about Jimmy, who would be the mule for the bank at the clan. There's probably quite a lot of members that have literally just been playing for the sake of their clan or for their friends or even for a content creator, feeding them supplies the entire tournament. So for them, being able to be in this position now with just ranged and throwing chin chompers is just as effective. It obviously won't help them going through into the multi as much.
But that being said, though, it looks like the Falador area has reached 128 players and they've been teleported through to the 1-versus-1 final. Now I have to wait for the Anakal to catch up.
Seems like we only have around about 20 so players just to fall here. And then we'll be teleporting those over to the 1v1s and we'll be getting straight into that 1v1 section.
And it looks like the clans from the outside as well now are actually starting to move into the middle and they see a few of those guys that were defending. They've sent some of their range raggers or the guys with the chinchompers to try and throw in. And look at that angle. That guy's right in the middle of the entire fortress, somehow throwing it that far and catching quite a few people with it without being damaged back, which is quite unique. But it looks like it's a bit of a stalemate. All the clans on the outside now are... There's not enough of them really to go for huge pushes anymore, and they want to clear out the guys in the middle because those guys in the middle they know from previous tournaments, potentially Lit, who have a huge alliance right now with GG, OT, Frontline, like we said before. One of the guys from Frontline, Inya, who has won several of the tournaments before, or rather came second in the rerun and came first in the last tournament. So they want to make sure they can take him out if he is hidden somewhere within that clump.
I'm looking forward to getting into the 1v1s, then starting to recognize some names. This is our 15th Deadman tournament. We're going to start to recognize names, I believe, as soon as we get into this thing. So curious to see who we're going to start out with.
There's a lot of notable players that are in this tournament, and I'm very excited to see if a lot, if not all of them, manage to get through to the 1v1s. And if so, I'll be able to tell you about those. It looks like you're not going to have to wait too long, Archie, because there's only a few more kills. And
they finally started to push in the clans from the outside, actually go wrapping in, trying to throw those chinchompers, throw those barrages on the southern corner. They're in a great position right now, actually, where they can't really get hit back very easily. So, if these guys don't start moving out of the inside, but at the same time, the second they move out of the inside, they can get frozen in that door, in that one-way entry. They've got to do something, man. They can't stay here with only, 10 players, maybe less than 10 players left to go now. It's just a case of, do we sacrifice our low-level players, little Jimmy, like you talked about before?
There was no word of a lie. There is someone who is sitting there with Mystic and a Crystal Shield who has around about 8 HP, and he just keeps going in and out, but no one's hitting him. But his HP bar is above his head because he keeps getting splashed by AoE spells. It's insane.
And he's kept alive.
That guy with Retribution just fell. He had 2 HP.
Oh, but he went into the mix, so that Retribution hit everyone in there right now in that square, which is really unfortunate for him.
He's not getting invited again to that clan race.
We have only a couple players left to fall now, and these guys are going to push through to the 1v1. We can get into the carnage, see the VLS weapons and all that good stuff, all the weaponry.
It's surprising to see such loyalty, as this is the last Deadman of this format again. I'd be blood barraging my own teammates at this point. I feel like this is our last tournament.
Wow!
Today.
And this is why you haven't played a tournament.
Yeah. That's not how you get yourself into a team, Archie. I'm just finding it fascinating just looking at the different types of gear sets that we're looking at.
One player left to die.
And what kind of people are going to be able to get into the tournament based on the gear. There's a dude in literally just full dragon hide.
Is he going to go? Oh, look at these two guys.
Which one is it? Oh, no!
Both of them.
Wait, they both went at the same time. Is that it? No. Oh.
Not yet?
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, that poor guy he just died at the last second.
Unfortunate for him.
He should have been invited.
It looks like we did deal with some double deaths there, so we may be looking at maybe 2 or 3 people getting a complete buy round because their opponent perished just in the last moments.
253 players remaining, so someone's going to get a buy. And
looks like it.
Unfortunate for them, but lucky for those that will face them.
So We're back again on the sofas. It's been an incredible tournament
Yes, we
so
are.
far. Well,
We didn't move.
I'm not used to casting, so well, I didn't really cast. I've just been here. So we've gone through the tournament. We've seen the 2 final areas. We've seen the clans. We're curious to see which players in those clans have made it through, of course, and which recognizable players will make it into the 1v1s. But for any new players, or sorry, new viewers less familiar with the Deadman tournament, what are we now about to watch?
We are about to watch one of the best moments of PvP content that you can see.
So, PvP in RuneScape is quite iconic in that there are 3 different attack styles. So you have range, you have mage, you have melee. And obviously melee you've got to be within close proximity, otherwise it's a bit of a range and a mage fight. We spoke earlier briefly about the barrage spell in the ancient spellbook, which freezes opponents. So we see a lot of that be utilised to keep your opponent away from you. And then you've also got the overhead prayers, which reduce damage by 40%. So making sure you've got the right overhead prayer to what your opponent is using to be able to defend yourself and mitigate damage is essential, as well as obviously maximising your offensive output by getting the hits on the off prayer, if that is going to make sense. It's a game of mind games, basically, where you're trying to trick your opponent into being in the wrong gear because range beats mage, mage beats melee, melee beats
Nothing.
well, I mean, yeah, well, it beats range.
Right. So about the metas, what we're looking for in the first few rounds, the names that you're going to want to follow throughout this entire thing are the guys with the full arrows, with potentially the Dragonfire shields, the Zuriel staff, the Vesta's longsword 100%.
Oh, the Vesta's longsword brings out some fantastic moments. We've seen some great KOs. If you saw the video at the very start when we introduced, there was an insane KO against someone who was using Protect from Magic. That Vesta's longsword just pokes through anything. You don't stand a chance.
Yep. We've got Armadillo, we've got ACBs in the game. When you can spot those guys early on, you can remember their name, you can watch them go through and win this thing.
And of course, like in previous tournaments, if you do kill somebody that has a DFS that's charged or Barrow's gear that does have equipment on it, you can still pick it up. You don't have to fix it like you do in the main game. So if you do beat someone that has stronger gear, it's a huge benefit to you. Not only does it reduce the competition for your other allies and such, but it means you're stronger and have a much better chance going through right to the final. So when we get down to like the last 16 or the top 8 or so, we start seeing guys that are just in complete max, that lot everything. Although there are quite a few of them actually going in with that gear already. Like I mentioned before, a lot of the clans feed around 3 to 5 players with this gear already, and hopefully, fingers crossed for them, they've managed to make it through the multi-phase and have a chance to really go right the way through to the 1v1 finals.
Just to quickly notice, guys, we're seeing this is the banking phase, obviously. There's 10 minutes left, so we're looking about 9 minutes left, actually. We can see some people that we might recognize that have made it through the 1v1s. Aisa, do you want to read some of those names?
I can. Do you want me to just like speed fire through them? Because I can if you want. Okay, we've got Nico, Abdullah, Ditabita, Boti, Manked, Bellis, Mika, Moni, Sparkmac, Robert, Alfie, Sicknerd, Skillspecs, and Solo Mission.
We're all so happy for Skillspecs
there.
I am because I'm just thinking back, and it's a tough subject to bring up because no one ever wants to talk about it because it does suck. But there have been times when he's been either invited onto the stage or he's been playing, and there have just been some issues, unforeseeable and unavoidable ones. So for him to finally on the last Deadman as well, it would just be. The worst scenario would be is if it's the last Deadman and something happens to him again. Well,
for those that don't know, Skillspecs recently moved to Australia, so
no technical issues.
I've heard that the Australian internet's not the best out there, so he's going to have to be competing with a lot of really
He's going to have some ping.
Yeah, he's going to have some ping issues potentially, but he's using the Carol's Darrock setup. We always talk about the Darrock seeing someone bring out the axe and swing a 90 or something. If it's going to happen today, Skillspecs is our man that we've got that hope in. So please, Skillspecs, give us some content.
There's obviously some fantastic names in there, but just to note as well, like Boti, one of the first Deadmans that he's really put a lot of time into in a while, and clearly it's paid off, and he's managed to make it through. So it'd be interesting.
We have Ditabita as well, who was another guy who the entire week's been making content and been PKing a lot. He was fed by the clan Cutthroat, who was part of the Rot Alliance, and from the names we've seen in there, actually, we have a very 50-50 split of one alliance or the other, which is also quite interesting.
I'm just going to reiterate quickly, many of these guys are streaming. So 100% if I'm a viewer right now, I'm opening up at least 3 or 4 streams. You're going to want to watch these fights. They're going to be good.
They are fantastic.
Who's your guys' money on? Who are you looking forward from that list that we see in front of us? We just named out.
Serious answer? I think seriously...
Did or better?
Nah, Bellis.
No, Manked.
Bellis will...
Mika.
Kick
there's too many.
But
sorry.
So I think serious answer is Bellis, but in terms of like fan favourite for me is going to have to be Skillspecs. It always is.
Right. Okay.
I'm very biased on that. I always have said so. So that's I'll stick with it.
I've been watching his videos all week. I really like the solo missions content. He has like got max stats as well. The DS2, 200 quest points, Barrow's gloves, the lot. He's got vengeance as well, I'm pretty sure. So one of the tanks is going to be powerful. But Bellis is a good friend of mine as well. Manked, who's won previous tournaments, and unfortunately made it to the 1v1 finals, just in quite a couple now. So for him to take back a win, I think would be great for his Twitch and his YouTube and such. Boaty as well, another good friend of mine. Darn it, man! Everyone, I want to see.
Well, I could literally say like 70% of those names on there. It's very tough. It always is, because we've got such a great community with the old school RuneScape. It's one of the best things about it. So many fantastic people, content creators, and just players alike.
But we can also recognise that many of the content creators mentioned in the beginning didn't make it. Just noticing there's no Torvesta in there. And what we might see is even a couple of these guys go head to head. We could see a Bodhi versus skill specs.
If it's ever going to happen, this is when it needs to happen, the final DMM for a while.
Yep.
I look forward to seeing it.
Let's not forget as well, Sick Nerd, obviously mostly known for Iron Man content now, a fantastic hardcore Iron Man account. He's pushed the limit in terms of PVM on that account so far. Definitely up there in terms of his account and how far it's progressed, and clearly showing that he has skill just outside of that game mode too. So
he's done really well this week. We also see Mika in there as well. Mika's been making content this entire week, every single day. We talked about earlier about having like 20-hour days, but still being able to edit videos somehow. He's a prime example of someone that does that.
Oh yeah.
Really, really well, and very
impressive.
consistently every single tournament. So kudos to him. And he never used to be a PvP. He's not known for his PvPing, but in the last few tournaments at least, he's done exceptionally well and gotten further and further. So I think he's a fan favorite as well to see go the whole way.
And as far as gear goes, we know many of these guys are geared up very well. Their stats are impressive. However, only a few of them have experience either winning a Deadman tournament, being Bellis and Manked, and a few of them actually have experience playing on stage and under pressure.
Yeah.
And that is a seriously valuable thing. When we did the PvP All-Stars last year, we saw some very formidable opponents going up on stage and shaking and losing to people that they definitely shouldn't have lost to. So, we'll have to see how it works this time.
For those of you that are just joining us and may have missed the last hour or so of the broadcast, we have just finished the permadeath stage of Deadman, which is essentially watching over 1,000 people get absolutely decimated. We're now currently in the banking phase, which is kind of like a preparation moment for all the players involved that are just heading into a 1v1 series of fights now. So the top 256 players from Deadman are going to be very shortly, within probably the next four or so minutes, moving into solo fights. So it's all on them from now on. There's no clan involvement, there's no help from anyone else, and there's also no mistakes to have to worry about in terms of coordination or communication. It's down to the player, their individual skill, and if RNG is on their side.
Well, I'm going to point out one quick thing before we get into this. Runefest tickets are now on sale.
Ooh.
All right, should have mentioned this earlier, but there it is. We'll mention it again at the end. Early bird tickets have sold out very, very quickly. It's Runefest, obviously. Everybody wants to go, so go ahead and get your tickets. We'll have a link in the chat. There you go, there's my bit.
I think every year Runefest has just got bigger and better. I think last year for me definitely was the best Runefest that I'd personally attended. It was a fantastic time. I got to meet so many awesome people. I'm really looking forward to Runefest this year again. And I think this year it seems that there's been a huge focus on community involvement in terms of deciding what content should and shouldn't be done. I believe there's also somewhere on the Old School RuneScape website, if you look at the news pages, you'll see that there's a petition for you to come forward and submit ideas as to what should be included at Runefest. So if you haven't already, definitely check out the website. The graphic popped up a moment ago. Head over there, figure out whether it's something that you can or can't get involved in. I would definitely recommend it, and if not, please send in some suggestions in terms of which content should be provided at the
We're doing
event.
something exciting, I should have mentioned actually. We're splitting it up into kind of a two-day activity. So the first day is the Golden Gnomes Day.
Yeah, which is normally done like the finale of the evening kind of thing.
It's a very long day, Runefest. Of course, there's so much going on. We've got announcements and reveals and the cosplay and all these different things. And then the Golden Gnomes to top it all off. We've done a Deadman tournament at Runefest before.
We have,
but the Golden Gnomes, one of my personal favorites, will be the day before. We can put a little bit more emphasis on that.
Get suited up then. You want to see the bow tie in person?
You can meet Ian at Runefest. Yeah.
They've seen that bow tie so many times.
They've seen it enough and they want to go in the bin. It is the most anticipated event RuneScape-wise of the year, apart from Deadman mode, of course. But it's great. It's meet all your friends, all the people that you've met online, and all the content creators that you watch from your own home. So yeah.
All right. So we've got just under a couple of minutes, it looks like, to get into this Deadman finale. Again, guys, we're going to pick favorites to win out of this list we can see on the screen. Who's winning it?
On the screen?
Yeah.
Go on, I'll go my boy Manked. Bring it home.
All right. That's a very, to be honest, I might say Manked as well. I'm going to say Manked.
Okay.
I always have said my serious answer being Manked because he's always on stage. And don't get me wrong, I love Manked, but after Bellis's performance in the rerun, I'm going with Bellis on this one.
Okay.
Yep.
As a serious answer.
That's 2 players from the same team. All right. Well, we'll have to see. Rock coming back for the first time.
Does that make it that everyone's a winner then, right? If either of them win.
But these are only a few of the names.
Well,
Same
they
team.
share money amongst the team potentially. Yeah.
So could work out.
These are only a few players that we know about.
Oh, yeah.
There might be a lot more that are under, covert operative names, where they,
Well, these guys are hiding under
sneak
different
in.
names, but fortunately, we have spies of our own. We don't.
Unless your name's Robert or Boaty, they just decided to go for. Oh, actually, no, just Robert. Actually,
Yeah.
Robert just went with the name Robert. Skill Specs went with Skill Specs. He didn't.
Fearless, man. Everyone's
Fearless.
DDS still.
Do you know what? If you can survive through that fog phase, keeping that name, that's very impressive.
Yeah. Well, maybe they just don't
Well
think
done.
they're as much of a threat for the 1v1s. No, I'm kidding. I love
Oh,
you, bro.
Robert. He's like everyone has improved considerable since
Oh,
like the
yeah.
first rounds of Deadman mode.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
So let's see if we can hop in game then. While these players are even still banking for the last minute, we're going to see if we can just kind of analyze the situation, see who's fighting who.
And one of
There
the
we
most
go.
amazing parts is getting now to see
Speaking
this
of which.
arena, which looks absolutely fantastic as always.
Dude, look at his inventory, man. Robert's got the full Bandos and the VLS, and he's got Vengeance, and he's stacked with max stats.
Robert,
This is gonna be an interesting
he is
one.
going for those big boy melee hits, isn't he?
Wow.
This looks like, we're going for a ranged melee Vengeance.
Oh, he's putting it on. He's showing off. He's got the
Alright.
Dragon Kite shield.
So real
too.
quick, guys, as you should have noticed, after the fog section, you get to bank, get all your gear. So that's why they have so many brews. These will be a little bit longer than average fights, but once they get to the point, or if they get to the point where they're dragging, we'll bring the fog in just to help speed things on a little bit. From here on forwards, we will restock their gear with some sharks, some potions. It'll be much quicker paced from that point on.
Mm-hmm. So these guys have the exact same inventories. We'll talk about the 2 fights that are happening right now. We've got Robert versus UKM. Not too sure who UKM is with. I think we're ready to pretty much begin now, any moment. And Robert's and his inventory is exactly the same, despite having a 2-way switch of the armor setup. So Robert's opted for some mage defense gear, which is the black d'hide top and the Carol skirt, which is huge. And then the Bandos for the tanky armor against range and melee. And then you've got UKM just sticking with the standard setup. He's got no switches apart from his melee to his range. So if these guys opting for the tank build, like we said before, they have the Luna's done, I believe, which means they've got Vengeance, which means a portion every 30 seconds of the damage dealt to them is going to hit back at the opponent. And we're going to watch these VLS swings, these stat hammer swings, because that's what's going to really, dictate the pace of this fight and who has the slight advantage.
So here we go, guys. This is the beginning of the 1v1 section. We're starting things off with Robert and UKM Prods. Since this fight will take a little bit more time than the typical fight because they have so many brews, I'm hoping we can jump around from fight to fight. They don't really typically get a mention, but I'd like to say a thank you and well done as always to Mod Rock and Bruno. They're our cameramen for this fight. So cheers, guys. We're starting out with Robert. He's doing very strong.
He's definitely got the upper hand at the moment. Those VLS swings are doing work. UKM Prod is just quite literally prodding, only sticking with range, hasn't opted to use any melee hits yet. Probably just because of the fact that the Statius Warhammer as a melee weapon just isn't as strong. He's going to want to use the special attacks to reduce Robert's defense. Whereas Robert can slash with the sword. However, that
Oh,
being
he could have
said,
KO'd him there, dude. He was on like 30, 40 hit points, and he went for an off-hit. With full Bandos and a Fire Cape, you can literally whack 50s, pluses, I believe, without the special attack, potentially. So it's a very scary combo to go up against.
so Ian, if you were in this situation, if you were UKM Prod with that exact gear, Statius Warhammer as your melee weapon, would you be going in for those melee hits in between range, or would you just focus range as he's doing now? Is this a bad tactic, or is he playing it
There
smart?
it is.
There it is, but Zero. I would definitely try and prioritize the melee hits because I believe Robert's Bandos has an insanely high range defense bonus. But the gear advantage that Robert has right now is just so huge. There's not much he can really do wrong as long as he pays attention, gets those specs out on the right press. Potentially here,
Wow.
24. It's not a massive. It's not bad either though. But I think Robert's going to take this one with ease. He's not even eaten a single brew yet or drunk a single brew yet. And UKM is finding it pretty difficult to stay in the fight.
Now we can come back to this fight afterwards, but I'd really like to jump over and see how Skill Specs is doing.
I would love to.
There he is.
So as we went to a 4, skill
A
specs.
difficult opponent.
He's opted for the the
Wow,
Stella
a
prayer,
53 just before the prayer.
Wait, is that going down?
And the Darox.
So he's got Carol to Darok combo, but as you can see, no rune pouch, which means he wasn't able to complete Lunar Diplomacy since Rot was holding it down. And the guy he's up against looks like he might be from Rot, actually. So can Skillspecs get his revenge, despite not being able to get Luna's done? Looks like the setup he's opted for, the problem with this right now is he has Carol's, which has very low defense capabilities, and his opponent's just an absolute massive tank bonus. He's got the Crystal Shield, he's got the Darok's legs, the Darok's plate body as well camp. So it's going to be hard for Jay to actually do any damage here, and he's got to sit low hit points for that Darok's effect to actually kick in.
Especially with Vengeance, it's very risky, and as great as the Carol's crossbow is in terms of speed, in terms of pure damage, it can fall short at times with the with the effects of the rune crossbow and enchanted bolts for sure. If you can get off a good diamond bolt spec, it's going to deal quite a hefty chunk because it ignores a portion of defense. Whereas the Carol's, he's got to try and get those Carol's bolts to hit through the insane defense of X.
It's just that unfortunate ability as well. The fact that you look next to him, the fight to the right, Ned Sturk. Look at him. He's got a Granite Shield, some Dragon Plate Legs and Dragon Medhand. Why couldn't Skillspecs have that opponent? But instead he gets given a 122 combat, maxed Demon who's got, just absolute crazy gear.
But it's one thing to make it through a couple of fights and then die, but to die to the guy who might go on to win it or take second place, that's
you can't feel too bad.
Yeah.
Ultimately, even if he was to get a buy through on this round against someone with lesser gear, he's going to end up facing against these at some point. So it's not like he would have managed to get an upgrade from Ned Sturk, whereas fighting against SXX here, he would be able to get some decent upgrades if he wins. And we've seen what happens before in previous tournaments, especially with weapons such as the VLS. All it takes is one special attack to deal a huge amount of damage, and then the fight's instantly turned around.
Yeah. And SXS is playing this smart. He's not dropping below 90 hit points. He's not dropping his prey melee. Skillspecs' only hope of getting this kill, as he doesn't have a special attack left for the VLS, is to use that Darok's. And he's not going to get low enough HP. He's been doing well as it is, but he is at a brute disadvantage, not looking too favorable.
I mean, the thing about Carol's crossbow is it hasn't got the biggest range bonus, even though it can do a lot of DPS on low defense opponents. On a fight like this, when you're fighting someone with a Crystal Shield and that full tank gear, it's just going to hit zeros all day long, and Skillspecs is now realizing that, and he's finally decided to start opting for the VLS switch a bit more, even through the prayer. It is far superior than using Carol's crossbow. And what he's going to do now, I believe, is stick to the VLS, and if he gets low enough, and the guy's not protecting melee, he might be able to go for that Darok's Axe, but of all the opponents to have and to bring this setup in for, it's quite unfortunate.
Probably the toughest
His opponent is literally a wall. He's got a Crystal Shield, the Darok's, the Verax, the Dragon Boots, the Fire Cape. You're not going to hit with the Carol's crossbow on that.
No. And unfortunately for Jay, Skillspecs rather, he only has 7 brews now compared to the other guys, 9, 10, 11 or something like that. Plus the guy's got, this SXS guy's got Vengeance too, so like I said before, a portion of damage every 30 seconds is going to be hit back. And that's why it was so crucial for Rot to really hold down the Lunar Diplomacy Island as best they could and not let any other teams through, because it gives you such a huge advantage in a fight that goes on for quite a while, especially with 2 range tanks we see here. Having that advantage makes,
the fog is kicking in.
So much.
The fights have taken that long now that the fog has started to tick regardless of this, so you're going to see these constant 2s happening. This could happen. This could actually favour Skillspecs, lowering his HP to make those Darok's hits hit more. Maybe we'll have a chance to get that melee hit in, but it doesn't look like it's going to work out very well for him. His opponent has so much food left, he really needs to get a KO, because otherwise he's just going to get completely out-eaten. However, that being said, he could also force his opponent to panic, start sipping brews, and actually run out of restores. If he's not managing his potions correctly, he could be in a position where he's got a lot less stats, so he won't actually be able to deal any damage. He might have a huge amount of HP, but he's not dealing anything back. We'll have to just wait and see what actually happens here.
Skillspecs is just praying for this guy to drop his prey melee, but SXX is not taking any risks. He's not going to drop the prey melee. He's not going to drop below 90 hit points. You can see him right there. He got down to 74, 72 at the lowest, and he's right back up. No mistakes.
And the thing here now for Skillspecs is that that VLS specs he just had there, that he shot both of them out. That was the only KO potential he really had besides the Darok's Axe, which again is very unlikely to hit. So,
but as we know historically with Deadman tournaments, the last couple have been won by Tribrids. We're not watching any right now. We can see there's a guy actually with an Infernal Cape in this final as well. We're going to see if we can hop over to him. There it is.
Oh,
Log out. That's a recognizable name. Who is that?
I think he might be from Blazers, but I could be wrong there. It looks like he went and got the Infernal Cape himself from one of the chest drops, unless he decided to do it in the tournament. If so, credit to him, because that is not an easy feat.
No one killed Zook according to the stats here, so that was from a chest.
Okay, I was going to say,
well, it's probably wild. The guy who got the chest was killed by Logout.
Yeah.
Chances
and really interestingly, again, man, we have another range tank against him. Both guys here, both being maxed combat, and he's trying for the Arims, try and freeze his opponent to step underneath. Actually, the other guy, unfortunately, yeah, he's using Vengeance. So, looking at brew disadvantage right now, he's down a couple of brews. I mean, that's nothing potentially if he manages to get a step under and get some specs out. It looks like he has 100% special attack for logout, but no special attack weapon to use. He did not bring in a VLS or a stat Warhammer or anything like that, unfortunately for him.
So this could be a nice win for him if he manages to pick this up. He'll at least have the the Statius Warhammer.
Yeah.
Whilst not as ideal as the Vestas Longsword, it still is a special attack weapon. And these fights, you want to be able to push and squeeze every last advantage that you can take use of, because it really does come down to sometimes the last 1 or 2 doses of food, maybe even the last 1 or 2 hits.
Right, back to skill specs now. Skill specs is down to 30 hit points.
And his only chance of the focusing down is to get that massive 90 axe, but the other guy's not taking off Frey Melee. He knows skill specs' plan.
It's now on LJ.
He's going to take it out for him.
There it is. Let's get some clappers in the chat for skill specs. Well done. Robert's still going strong. Actually, yeah, he's looking
good. This
one.
looks like he's pretty much able to just outlast his opponent, who will eventually die to the fog, if not a hit beforehand. It looks very unlikely that Robert's going to die. He's not able to get specced out. There's a really nice hit from him. His opponent's completely out of food, now completely out of prayer. Last hit, and that's it. Robert progresses through to the next round as well.
You have to appreciate the GFs.
Yeah, it was far closer than I thought it would be as well, considering that the Robert has such a huge advantage with the full Bandos there. Now Logout here with 1 brew left, but no restores. He's messed up his brew to restore ratio, which means as he starts brewing, which he's started to do now, his stats are going to be drained.
That's
It's
it.
no longer going to be able to make use of that magic as well, which he went through all the effort to bring. That's extra invent spaces that he could have used for other stuff, but now he's just going to have to hope that his opponent isn't able to heal through the damages dealt. But his stats are going to be so lowered, he's not going to be able to use magic, he's not going to be able to deal as much in general. That could have cost him.
I think it will cost him the fight, actually. It looks like LMF has a brew left and full hit points almost, and Logout is it's just a matter of time before the fog takes him out as well. It's not a nice sight to see, the range, the tanks beating the hybrids, but to be fair to Logout as well, he doesn't have the most amazing gear. He's got Mystic Boots on as well. He doesn't have one of the new staffs either, or a VLS or anything like that, so maybe that's the difference that it would have taken for him to actually get past this fight. Only a 50 HP loss in the end for Logout, if he does lose, that is. I mean, maybe he'll come back, brew down, but I very much doubt it.
Trying to juke his opponent into thinking he had magic.
I don't actually think it was possible, to be honest.
His opponent getting some nice upgrades there as well, though, going from Dragonhide up to the Carols, obviously from Logout, who left it there.
Wait, is he...
This guy has an entire inventory of files.
Disqualify him for boxing! I'm kidding. I'm not too sure what that was for. He had a full inventory of nothing.
And so we were talking earlier about the clans that have Fed members in their team. Those were not the Fed members. So Chest wins that one, and we move on to
Lock them up.
We'll end up winning this one. Again, more range tanks. We're really looking forward to the next round where we can see which tribrids have actually made it through. The guys with the ancient magics, those are the fights you want to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Still waiting to see where this is going to go.
This is the last fight.
This is the last one. Beautiful.
There it is. One thing just to note that you might notice when we go into this next round, there's going to be a little bit of a pause. It seems like the wonderful people at Jagex are going to be looking at changing some of the players' names just to make it a little bit easier for us to actually talk about them, because there's a lot of different characters in there, and it's not the easiest to try and pronounce them at a pretty quick rate. So yeah,
we can appreciate that.
We might be taking a few seconds, so bear with us while that gets done. But wow, one other thing to notice that we're going to be going into the next round as well is that we won't be seeing people with full inventory worth of brews. I think from this round out, they're given a preset determined amount of supplies that is system driven, which consists of, I believe, sharks, a couple of brews, 1 or 2 restores, a range and a combat potion, and that's all, right?
Yeah, just about.
Cool.
And there are a limited amount, obviously,
Yep.
but if you do kill your opponent, you have extra supplies, you can drop those to the floor.
Yep.
So.
Cool. Yeah. So yeah, that whole 1v1 stage there, we saw quite a bit of variety in terms of builds and in terms of gear. It does seem like this round, the fights that we were able to focus on was predominantly tank builds, which we've seen in previous tournaments do really, really well. It would be very interesting to know if there were fights that carried on that we weren't able to catch that were hybrid, and then how those will fare up against these new tank builds. Yeah. Those that we did see, I think almost every fight that we managed to catch saw the actual victor in one way or another getting an upgrade in terms of gear as well, which must be a real nice feeling for them.
Yeah.
Up until the last tournament as well, I did find that the range tank meta was kind of like, becoming almost too good to be true.
Yeah.
It could beat everyone. But last time round, and in the rerun as well, specifically,
yeah, the rerun was fantastic.
We saw so many hybrids that just proved that if you are skilled enough, that you can definitely walk all over someone that's in tank gear. So now that both players have got an even inventory, we should see some much more exciting, fast-paced fights coming in now.
Yep. So I'm curious to see out of that list of players that we saw make it through, how many of those made it through the first round. We're still yet to hear about Bodhi, Manked, Bellis, quite a few of these guys. Solo Mission, Mika, of course. So once we get information on that, we'll share it with you. But again, many of these guys are streaming, so you can probably check it out yourself. So, just a matter of minutes, Bodhi has died.
Bodhi.
There it is.
The
information's come through on request.
He didn't make it through to the round, I think is a nicer way to say it, because without context, that could be pretty
he went down in the multi-phase?
No, I think he went down in the 1v1s because he made it through,
wow.
yeah. It's just that Archie just out of nowhere just shouted, Bodhi's died.
Okay.
And we're not watching any gameplay, so context is very important in this, so yeah.
Right.
He's not made it through to the second round of 1v1s.
Oh, bless him.
Sorry, Chris. I know you hate commentating with me.
That's all right.
Look at that face.
All right. But yeah, I'm curious to see which other content creators make it through, and then who we're going to be starting with. Again, we want to be bouncing between these fights quite quickly, but these fights will be more fast-paced, or faster paced rather, because there aren't going to be so many brews. And yeah, it should be just a few more minutes while these guys bank, or not bank actually.
They're
sort
just
themselves out.
waiting for a Jagex to change names, and they're just composing themselves. I think this is where we can see range tank be a little bit less effective, because in the first round, range tank has a huge amount of resources to keep them stocked the entire time. Whereas in this round, they're not able to constantly keep on eating through the high burst potential which Hybrid does bring along.
Yeah.
Range is typically a lot of consistent damage, and it's about whittling down your opponent. Hybrid has the potential of a lot of bursts, especially if you can catch them off prayer and on the wrong gear sets, for example. And that's when potentially range tank could start to fall behind.
It's all about that momentum in a way, because the VLS can literally hit 50s and 60s and such, and AGS can hit 70 somethings. You got to sit, high HP the whole time, and every time you eat a shark, and we have only 20 sharks in your inventory, it delays you by a few game ticks. You can't just eat a shark and then keep firing back like you can with brews, with restores as well. When you're drinking potions, you can still keep firing back. So you're able to keep your HP at full the whole time, but pretty much, and not have any really chance of dying unless you run out of supplies. So now we're going to see that momentum coming into play, whereby if you get caught in the wrong prayer, and then you start to make mistakes, and you have to start panicking and all that kind of stuff, that's where one big VLS spec can turn into, half your inventory gone in supplies, because you just can't get back into it.
Well, as well, you think if you get hit at 60, that's 3 sharks, and I think you're only given something like, is it 12 or 14 sharks in total?
It's not
like
a
huge
We'll
amount,
have a look when the
especially when you
round starts.
consider the invent that you already have. So yeah, it can be very, very detrimental, and you have to be very careful. Things are going to get really serious here on out, and it's always a very exciting time to watch. So.
And again, touching on the skill and the confidence going into these next rounds, being a range tank is a little bit easier. And by that I mean it's monumentally easier. So you can sit there with Auto Retaliate, and many of these players again don't have Vengeance because Rot was holding it down. So Rot again picking up a strategy somewhat perhaps influenced by Fools from the previous season. Fools was holding down Shiloh Village, stopping people from getting Piety and so many other things. Rot this time around was holding down Lunar Island. They eventually did lose it to Blazers. Right? But they probably stopped.
Momentarily. I think Blazers got a few people through, and then Rot came back and held it down for with CT and Frontline, or what about the teams they're with, sorry?
There we go. We can see some names of players who are making it through. Thank you, guys. We've got Rot and Eco. We can probably assume there are many other Rot players that have made it through as well. We've got Abdullah, Manked, Bellis, Sparkmac, Robert, Mika, Alfie,
and Solo Mission.
Solo Mission. So quite a few guys.
Yeah, big list of names there.
I'm not seeing Sick Nerd either. Unlucky Sick Nerd.
Commiserations. I'll be really interested to see what gear setup he opted to go for in the end.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing I really enjoy doing, is going back through everyone's past broadcasts for those that I didn't catch in the moment, obviously being here and watching the tournament unfold live. I like going through, checking their past broadcasts and seeing what happened. And
I've been doing my best every night, on my phone before going to bed, trying to catch up on YouTube, see all these videos. And then by the time I've watched 3 or 4 of my favorite content creators, suddenly there's 2 or 3 more that popped up. I'm just sat in bed for hours just trying to catch up. So I know the feels.
All right, guys. So let me ask you a question. You're going into the 1v1 phase. You feel like you're relatively well equipped. What's your mindset? What's your strategy?
Going into the 1v1 phase
Going into the next round. Let's say you've won your first fight.
Gosh, I'd be pretty happy to have made it. If you can win one, you just got to win another.
Is that what you're telling yourself? As long as I win one.
As you won one, you got this far so far. You're just playing for fun, really. You got to remain calm. And it's a lot of pressure, man, especially the fact that obviously one thing is you've just spent a whole week grinding out, starting from scratch. But the other thing is if you're one of those Fed players, your whole team is really counting on you. You've been chosen as an elite member, like above everyone else. It's been worth their time. And not one person's time, I'm talking like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 people's time to gather these resources to pick you up as their best like warrior to try and take people on. So, sorry, you asked me what you should do. Don't think about that, pretty much. Don't think about how the high pressure situation. That's what I'd be thinking about.
So Manx goes on to win All-Stars, flawless victory.
Yeah.
We find out he's been listening to classical music the entire time.
Yes.
Do you have any suggestions as per rituals? Anything that you might recommend a player going into?
There is one really, really important thing, and I think a lot of people forget how important it is, and this is really serious, so I'm not even going to make... No, I'm joking. Hydration. Drinking water. Make sure you stay hydrated, gamers, because hydration is the key to maximum efficiency.
There's one thing that there's one thing that comes to mind as well.
It's true.
That's what it is.
You got to make sure you're drinking. Everyone's got their gamer juice these days and the fuel that they have, but drink some water. Keep yourself nice and healthy.
I had a clan called DL, Divine Legion, that reached out to me as well. And part of the stuff they told me was that they had a phrase when they were doing PVM of whenever they wanted an item, it became like a bit of a thing. They'd say this phrase and suddenly they'd start getting stuff. So they got, for example, 2 Armadyl chest plates and an Armadyl crossbow, which in this tournament final is like so amazing.
Is this something they typed in game?
I think it was something they just said on TeamSpeak, a bit like with the Rune Shark and
like
Kira. There it is. I was asking what it was. I couldn't remember it in my head.
Yeah.
Badoodle, something like that. So maybe they've just got to think of a phrase like that and say it before they go in.
Perfect. It's time
Stay
to...
hydrated.
There we go. Cheers.
Nearly struggled to open it. That would be really awkward, wouldn't it? Cheers.
Oh. So, we're still waiting to jump into the next round of the 1 versus 1s.
It does look like we've got a thumbs up from Mod Rock.
Oh, really?
Thank you, Rock. We're going to head into
No,
game.
that was just because it's happy we're hydrated now. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're still going to head into game regardless of what the outcome is. Let's go have a look at what's in game, guys.
Probably players waiting to
There we
get
go.
to the next fight.
Thank you very much.
We're straight up
we can see Manked against chest press. This is going to be an interesting fight. Manked opting for the full hybrid as before. He's very, very confident with it. Obviously, Archie touched earlier on the fact that Mank managed to get all the way through All-Stars, flawless victory, has done very well in previous tournaments, and has spent a lot of his time at this tournament actually PKing. Normally, he'll focus a lot of time on streaming, but given the fact it was the final tournament, I believe that he spent, wow, a 49 straight away. That's not what he spent, but that's what he did. He decided to spend his first few days actually focusing on training his account, streamed pure PKing then for 3 days straight, I believe, and then the last few days of Deadman has just been about having fun and feasting on people with his clan.
So two things here. This is an upgrade. Is that an Armadyl plate skirt?
So yeah, the Armadyl plate skirt has
upgrade.
Huge mage defense on it, which is going to be hard for Mank to actually catch those freezes, but at the same time, it's not showing a problem.
He's dominating him.
He's getting some huge hits out right now, and catching that freeze essentially off the bat is really important because that means that chest press, look at his inventory right now, he only has melee and range, so if he's frozen in place constantly by Mank's huge miasmic mirages with that staff, he's not going to be able to, to move and use that Warhammer and use a special attack. He's got Vengeance, but it's not really helping too much. Mank's looking like he's got an almost full inventory of supplies right now.
Has he eaten yet?
I don't think he's eaten, apart from maybe a brew dose.
Yeah, I think it's just literally one brew dose, whether that was a pre-brew or not. That being said,
that's big. He's got to chug some brews for that. Get his
was that a special attack that just came through in here?
It was.
So his defense is going to be reduced now. That's a special effect of the Statius Warhammer. Works similar to a Dragon Warhammer, I believe.
Yep.
Reduces your opponent's overall defense. There's another one. I believe that was, I don't know if that was considered a hit or not, whether it was a recall Mank ended up taking. But we definitely have one hit. So Mank's going to have to be a little bit cautious, but he is definitely on the upper of his opponent in terms of his invent. I believe he's actually been able to eat food, but he's got food on the floor still potentially, just because of how many items he's got in his invent.
He's also using the blood barrages to heal himself.
Yeah, which is probably why he's been able to stay such high hit points the entire way through. He also opted to smash out his special attacks as soon as possible, catching that vital freeze right there as his opponent is flying in with that stat Warhammer. He also got himself a Dragon Crossbow as Blazer's team did lock down Dragon Slayer 2, which was essential in farming the Rune Dragons to get this iconic weapon. Of course, the bolts, O-Bolt C, we just saw a spec going off there, which hits a really powerful hit. Oh my god, a 30 as well through the Protect Melee, I believe, right there. Chest press now down to 1 sharp. It's going to take him a lot to come back. I think Mank has got this in the bag, to be honest now.
Yeah, I think a combination of really, really nice freezes, not splashing all the time, as well as some really good bolt specials, which, I've got to give credit to the fact that they've got Dragon Crossbow, which means they can use the Dragon Arrows, more range strength, more ranged accuracy overall, and then those higher hits. Just being able to completely train chest press, and this is where it shows you that that range tank meta isn't always the best thing, because if you are going up against a good opponent, if you're not focusing your prayers properly and switching gear in and out,
there it is.
Just like that, you're going to fall.
Very, very well done.
Great job for Mankt, and a nice
a couple
upgrade as well.
mistakes though, Mankt, and you can see he's as composed as ever. But if he was going up against a skilled hybrid, I think he might appreciate that was a practice round. Maybe he was taking that opponent a little bit lightly. But an interesting strategy. I'm just going to touch on Mankt's strategy real quick. Unloading the specs immediately. So by doing this, you're building back your special attack. You'll get a 5th spec by the end of the fight. You're also making your opponent go through a lot of food immediately, which is getting in their head, making them think, I'm losing quickly, I'm losing too quickly. They start to panic.
Yeah, well, like I said before, it's
very clever.
It's a game of momentum, so you want to try, catch that upper hand, so you're forcing your opponent to eat, which is wasting them game ticks. They can't actually do any damage back. We saw a 20-something staff dash with the Azurill staff.
I mean, Abdullah needs it as well, because it looks like he's falling behind in terms of supplies. He's got, his opponent's still 3 sharks, 1 Karamban, and a sip of brew dose.
Yeah, he has no special attack left either right now, Abdullah, so he needs to catch the freeze underneath, step under, and now it's going to come down to a huge game of RNG. If he can come back from this, I'll be very surprised, but unfortunately for him, the guy against him, LMFAO, seems to have quite a bit of resources left, and he also had Vengeance, which is probably the defining factor here.
Yeah.
And not to mention the fact that obviously as well, he's got 121 combat, he's got maxed gear pretty much, so this is like a tank's worst nightmare, pretty much. A hybrid's worst nightmare right now.
And you can tell he's a little bit, I'm going to say, hot-headed, LMFAO, because his name's actually LMFAO You Bad Lol. So he's enjoying himself right now. He's winning with
PK, man.
he's winning with laughter. And after this fight, it looks like we get to hop over to SparkMac. So we'll see how he's doing.
That was a big upgrade as well for LMFAO, getting himself the VLS.
Yeah, very respectable.
Gets himself the VLS over the stat Warhammer, which is huge too. We have SparkMac leading the tribe and doing some great DDing underneath. He's actually opted for full tribe in max gear. He's even got the DFS too, so he's gone really hard this past week.
Yeah, he's taking out a very powerful opponent.
Absolutely, and we've joined in at a perfect time as well, because it does seem like he's about to take down that powerful opponent and maybe snag himself a few little pieces of gear in terms of
the Infinity Boots. You might take that.
I mean, it would definitely help him in terms of his mage. Would he want to sacrifice the event slot for it, though? I think it's worth it. I think that the thing with Magic is that it's great when it actually works. I know that sounds really obvious, but when Magic splashes, you are at such a disadvantage because you're putting yourself at such a... There's a nice swing, taking that down. But
I see some God Swords in here as well, actually.
When you go for the magic hits, you're in much less defensive gear because you want to get the magic accuracy, which means you're much more prone to ranged and melee hits. That's 2 combat styles that you can take more damage from. So it is a big cost you have to do. Wizard Boots just didn't care at that point. Look how much food was left. Just let his opponent die to the gas. And it seems like a very similar situation here as well. Icom Correct ended up winning that fight with pretty relative ease. Decent amount of HP left.
Quite a few people died there. We have seen, I believe it looks like, well, I can't see him on the list anymore, so we're trusting Bodhi has died. We're trusting Bellis, a previous winner, has died.
Really? And so did Abdullah too, we just saw a minute ago.
Yep, we did. We're waiting on an updated list, but it's been a very dramatic 1v1 so far. Typical stuff though, you see Mankt going through with a very strong setup, the Tribrid with the VLS. I think we can probably expect to see a top 4 with a very similar setup.
Yeah, I think from what I've seen so far, Mankt, of all the fights, Mankt was like one of the cleanest. We caught one of the tail ends of a fight where the chap had a full invent of food still, so obviously he steamrolled, but we're looking at completely different brackets in terms of combat and gear there. Whereas Mankt against his opponent was pretty well matched in terms of levels and gear, and he completely dominated that fight. So he looks to be on absolute form. I reckon he's got that classical music on full blast right now, and he's just in the zone. And I'm looking forward to seeing how he progresses through the rest of this tournament now. Yeah.
We saw SparkMac as well, another familiar face. And, he doesn't really. He's a PK.
He was stacked. SparkMac has got some gear.
Yeah, he doesn't normally do hybriding or tribriding very much. So to see him, taking part in the tournament and still looking really strong and doing the DD underneath as well. Might be interesting to see how far he gets. I believe he was fed by the clan GG as well, as well as probably his live stream and friends that he's got through there. So he could definitely go really far right now.
I would say his opponent looked like it was probably the strongest.
Yeah.
Azurill staff, I think, of VLS.
It was a Tribrid versus Tribrid, so he came out as the better PKer there.
Yeah.
And again, it comes down to, like we said before, the whole the nerves. SparkMac's someone who streams daily to thousands of viewers, and he's been in the limelight for a long time as a content creator, so he probably doesn't really feel that pressure. He's just having fun right now, enjoying himself, and doing what he can for the tribe.
I can imagine him right now in voice, if he's streaming, which I imagine he is probably shouting, "Let's go, Tim! Let's go, Tim! Let's go!"
It's an interesting, actually, thing that you pointed out there, Ian, whether you're having fun or whether you're taking this very seriously. I think going into a 1v1, you can either have a laugh with it, right? or you can maybe compose yourself in a way like Mank does, or you can get really serious like I probably would. Sweat dripping, like metal music playing, like every click is heavier than it needs to be. Like, yeah. All right, anyway, sorry, the next round is ready. Let's hop into that.
All right,
there we go, Robert making it through.
Yeah, he has some really sick gear. The defensive of Bandos has probably been helping him a lot here. Not to say that it's been carrying him, because he seems to be doing a pretty good job, but I'd definitely say it's got some factor in terms of his success currently. And
we've seen this opponent he's fighting. I believe we watched this guy in a previous round, and he's looking pretty strong. The stat Warhammer, he's not even going to bother with that Carol's Leather top. You're not going to typically bother. Oh, this is a high-paced fight.
Nice damage exchange there. Both players with Vengeance that Robert managed to get in the hit through the prayer as well.
Yeah, you're not going to bother with the anti-magic defense if your opponent isn't using mage. That said, he's just put the Carol top on. An interesting strat, because Robert's going to keep that Bandos on the entire time. Whip out the VLS very quick. He just has to do a one-click spec. There it is. He can get those 33s out. But Tweak does have the Venge. So does Robert, actually. This is a great matchup.
It's like I was before. Blazers were able to beat out Rot inside the in Lunar Diplomacy and take it for themselves for a little bit. And it looks like Robert right now, the Venge combo, almost getting a KO there, but deciding to eat instead and conserve his supplies. He could have got hit in before he decided to eat. He was a little bit late on the eat there. But nonetheless, Robert looking really strong right now, and that Bandos making a huge advantage as well. Looks like we've got a Manked fight coming up as well. Maybe we can switch to that, and then we'll switch back to Robert in a little bit. So it looks like Manked right now is in the Tribrid setup versus a guy who's also Tribriting, and he's actually losing to Mystics. So whoever this guy is, the sick kid, I'll call him. Or, oh, sorry, ST1, my bad. I thought sit for a second. He's doing much better, actually. He's got 6 sharks. Actually, no, to be fair, Manked does have 1 shark advantage right now, getting the DD underneath and trying to turn that into, more damage. He's got 1 spec about to come up as well, 20% spec. Unfortunately for his opponent, does not have the stat Warhammer. So
Manked making the comeback, as he does. He does have a severe gear advantage here. So ST did very well for the gear he had.
I'm very surprised he's done so well.
Stat-wise, they look just about similar.
I mean, we didn't catch
Manked should have this one in the bag.
Yeah, we didn't catch the start of the fight. That could have literally been a Statius Warhammer special attack on Manked whilst he had Protect from Range in Mage gear on, or Protect from Range with Range gear. So it could have been that which made up that difference in terms of HP, but they do look pretty even now. Some really nice hits coming against Manked. Opting to use the DD method, obviously when his opponent's frozen, he's able to step underneath. It's really useful because he can switch out gear without his opponent necessarily being able to see what Manked's doing, doesn't know which prayers to use or which gear to go into, really helps him. And it also means that Manked isn't taking as much damage because he can normally get 2 hits to every 1 that he takes back as well.
I think having that Zuriel staff advantage, having...
Wow, that was a 45 of the Status Warhammer. Sorry to intrude that in, but when those numbers come, I just can't help myself.
It's understandable, Ben. I mean, a 45 is pretty good from a Status Warhammer, especially versus Manked, who was up until now actually doing really, really well and managed to come back and have quite advantage. But that 45, 2 sharks down, and suddenly ST1 is back in the game, and he's managed to catch Manked 3s away from him. Now Manked is not eating any food for some reason, back into eating right now. But having that, that Arims, that Zero Staff, having the Mage's
He's got the Dragon Crossbow advantage as well. He's got some big advantages here.
Having the Arims and the Zero Staff and the Mage's Book particularly means that those freezes are almost always going to catch, especially versus Mystics, whereas ST1 has to rely on a lot better RNG. But yeah, the 34 through the prayer, huge for Manked. It's coming down to the wire right now. Manked has 2 food left. He can't risk it too low right now. You've got the first hit in. It's time to eat up. And now it's completely
out of food now. These next few hits are going to determine the way that this fight shapes out to be. Will it be Manked going through, or will it be STI? We're going to have to wait a few more hits to find out. Manked managed to get a freeze.
ST1.
Sorry. ST1, sorry.
Yeah, okay. That's all right.
Oh, all right. Well, let's be so particular in this heated moment of this absolute epic battle between 2 complete dominating forces. Manked takes it through against ST1.
Yeah, again, the benefit there of having that extra freeze advantage, being able to catch those freezes, meant that Manked could, I think 3 or 4 times in a row there, catch those DDs and be able to secure the win. Very close for him, though, and probably having him a little bit shaking, a little bit nervous in the next round. We have Robert versus Tweakster now, back into this fight, and Robert showing that the power of the Bandos is more than enough to take a huge win, and he has so many sharks left. A bunch of recalls that he's also collected along the way, and those recalls, of course, will be taken through per round, and it gives you a couple of sharks worth per recall, which is a huge benefit as well. Every damage that gets dealt to you, and a little bit gets dealt back.
Robert playing the smart, keeping his distance, keeping prey melee up. He knows he can't die unless he gets lucky. Stat Warhammer spec. One content creator that we know is actually still alive from the looks of it is Mika, that we haven't tuned into. So I'm quite curious to see how he's doing. Maybe we'll find out next round. But Robert should be taking this one. 3 food left. There's the VLS.
No prayer left.
Just about to finish things up.
Only 1 dose. And there it is, a nice little slash to the chest against Tweakster, and he is down and out. Here we've got Ozzy James against Icom Correct again, and it looks like Ozzy James is in a better position, full HP. His opponent already saying good fight, going to be running out of prayer very soon as well, but he's only going to take the next hit for him to progress through.
Yeah, one of the Cutthroat members, guy in the Rot Alliance, but he's now actually opted for the Vengeance, interestingly. He's gone for the full Tribrid setup, and he's looking very stacked at the same time. Looks like Mika won his fight too, for those wondering at home. So Mika is also through right now. We have Gurkblob versus Zelino, and I don't know how to pronounce that name. That was.
I'm just going to say real quick, these guys make their names difficult so that when they're being called out in a pile, it's difficult to call out their names.
Pretty much. And looks like Mr. X.
The 40 KO though. That was a comeback.
Really
Dude, the
close.
PvP weapons, people underestimate them. Even without a special attack, they can still,
Every single fight that we've seen so far pretty much has came down to the wire. And I know that we said that so many times last tournament, but like both of these players have no food.
This is huge.
That was 23.
That is huge. That guy now has a VLS addition over his stat Warhammer. And having that VLS, having 4 special attacks, 25% spec, which all roll off 25% of your
He barely made it
defense
through as well. 23 HP.
It's massive, man.
We also saw an upgrade of an Aram's body there, and also winning a fight is going to give you a little bit of adrenaline. You're going to feel a little bit better about yourself, especially when you're beating a formidable opponent. You're going to go into the next round with a little bit of confidence.
Yeah.
So that was a very interesting round indeed. We saw Mika went through, we saw Mankt went through. Did we see what happened to Sparkmac there?
Sparkmac
went through as well.
And we saw Robert win as well. So there you go. The 4 recognizable names as far as we're concerned, but there are still so many others in this fight.
Yeah, we saw a CT member as well. We've not really talked too much about Cutthroat either. They decided to join the huge Rot Alliance as well. They have like a 30 to 40 man group. They're an 07 clan that's been around for many years right now, led by Christy. And really lovely people on that team. I played them before, so really must be really exciting for them as well. I think they've won or come second place once. That was with Ditter Bitter, who I'm not too sure if he's still in this tournament yet. I'm sure we'll have confirmation sometime soon.
I think he
died.
He fell. He got
in the first round.
Yeah, he did die.
Because he was one of
Looks
those
like
guys that they fed. So
We're actually ready to go into the next round.
Oh,
Already?
okay.
All right, beautiful. Let's go.
Straight into it and find out what's going on.
Right, starting with Spark Mac, who's now looking like what?
A very difficult fight.
The Armadillo chestplate thing as well. Was that actually Spark Mac? DMM Spark?
Yep, but he's got a rune crossbow versus an ACB, starting out with a 44 for HSZASLYRBRE.
Whoever this H, whoever
Spark against H, okay? Yeah,
just call him.
Whoever Mr. H is, he's an absolute beast. He's got the imbued heart, which you get from Superior, which increases your magic level at the start of the fight, which is absolutely massive because you need that in those freezes. He's decided
just
to
used
opt
it there.
now. Yes, he's probably waiting to start to get that momentum so we can actually make the most of it for having to brew back up again. And he's got the Sears ring switch. This might be Inya, for all we know. This
guy's very good.
This could very well be Inya, the frontline member that we were talking about before, who won last time round and then came second. In
wow, look at the difference straight away. Bearing in mind, this fight just happened, it started around about 15 seconds ago, no more than that. Sparkmac is already down to just 2 sharks, 1 Crown Brand, and a 3 dose of a brew, as his opponent is still pretty much stacked out in terms of supplies.
There he goes, coming back a little bit.
To beat Spark now, he's going to actually get himself a slight upgrade too. The Armadillo chest plate is going to be huge for mage defense, especially when he's got the Carol's top already. But it's going to take a lot for Spark to come back. He needs to catch that freeze, step underneath as he's doing right now, fakey a little bit. He's got 1 spec left, so he has a bit of potential, but H does get his prayer up right in time and mitigates that damage, catches the freeze back, and now it's all H's game again. Spark out of supplies, out of luck. He's come far, but I don't think he's going to be able to beat this tough opponent.
Yeah, and we can see that Robert, unfortunately, has just fallen, and we may be able to hop over to Mankt immediately after this fight to see how he's doing. But yeah, Spark completely out of food. He's got 1 brew dose left. No super potions after that.
That's going to be him out. I don't think there's any chance of him coming back. Doesn't even have a special. The switches coming in from H are just absolutely insane.
He's very
lightning
composed.
speed.
It could be. I don't know who it is. Do we have any confirmation what team they're in or who it may be? That'd be awesome. But yeah, right now, just a waiting game, trying to catch that next freeze and Spark. Unfortunately for him, he just got destroyed at the start, and once that ball starts rolling, it's like a snowball effect. It just picks up pace. And with that being said, yeah, wasn't able to come back in time, unfortunately.
Good fight.
Mankt versus Sif, and we saw Sif picking up the VLS last fight, actually, another Tribrid, but Mankt's gear does slightly outweigh his, and looking at supplies right now, looks like Mankt is up a shark and half a brew, which is quite big at this point in the game.
Yeah. And if we look to the left,
I think you just said the same thing. Yep. Top left, we just can see
Mika's just won his fight.
Managed to make it through, so we know Mika's through now, so we're just going to be concentrating on Mankt against Sif. And it does look like Mankt has the upper hand here in terms of supplies left over as well. As Ian touched earlier a little bit, that Sif has managed to pick up the VLS. Used the specs early on, has one available. Mank, however, still has another 2 specs available to use here. I'm just going to wait and see how exactly he decides to pop those out, because they really are damaging. There's one, unfortunately, hits a 0 against all of the right gear and prayer on his opponent, but just unfortunate for him.
I'm going to call this, I'm just going to say real quick, there's been Manked versus that H guy in the finals.
You think
My
so?
prediction, yeah.
I'd like to say that Sif needs to catch the next freeze and then start to, change the pace of the fight, but he's not able to. And Manked going to take this one very easily for him. He's going to pick up any advantages here, any benefits? No, I don't think he is. I think he's got the same gear, if not better gear than Sif. So yeah, Manked's going through, another fan favourite. And we've done 3 rounds now almost. So we're down to
top
30 something, I think, by now.
Oh, we don't try to do maths, we wait for people to tell us.
Yeah, I think we're going to, the next round's going to be the top 30 something. So we're dwindling down just to a couple contestants left.
Yep.
And in no time, we're going to be crowning the final DMM winner. And $20,000 grand prize, aren't we?
There it is. So Mank's winning his fight. He's going on very strong. One of the things with Mank is I think he gets better with every fight. That first fight was a nice warm-up for him. He had a really nice opponent for that, and now he's getting into the serious fights. But he's ready for it. We've got Dragon versus Targ. How's this fight looking? Dragon with a slight advantage, 1 crown bond left. Targ out of food.
Targ does have the, I don't know why he's using Morrigan's
Doesn't seem to ever go well for a Targaryen, so it looks like they're going to be falling here against Dragon Drags, which is pretty ironic, actually.
Really close, and luckily for Targ as well, I believe he's going to pick himself up
47.
Wow.
a DFS switch, which is much better than the Crystal Shield, and a huge upgrade, being the best in slot shield in the game right now, unless, of course, someone has an Elysian, which I very much doubt.
I think Corp has only been killed a total of 4 times the entire tournament, so I doubt that would be the case.
A team did tell me they were killing Corp, and they said they were able to get potentially a Spirit Shield, but maybe they were sniped in the finals, the multi-phase before this happened.
We have had word that Mr. H from the previous round of those insane switches is actually part of Blazers, so interesting to know who they actually are.
Look at this full Armadillo beast. He's doing all right. Might lose this one though. It's a very close
10
fight.
HP against 5. 1 hit is going to make this.
Whoever wins this.
Oh, wow.
Advantage. Wow.
Thanks to the Armadillo. There it is.
Changing Maze takes it against TI.
I mean, that DFS again, and just, outgearing him completely. That's what it comes down to.
But I mean,
even a few HP though.
Outgearing him completely. It was literally a difference of like 6 HP. 1 hit, 1 person to step out.
Yep.
Unfortunately, it was the one who got hit.
Yep.
Right, so what do we know going into this fight? We know we've got Manked. We know we've got Mika.
Yep.
Right?
We know that we've got Mr. H from Blazers.
We do. A few unfamiliar names. And we know we've got a few rounds left. So
we've got there's a good variety of players in here now. I think the last few fights that we saw there had predominantly people hybrid rather than the tanks. So it seems like the tanks have been whittled down and just taken out of the tournament and just picked apart. They've just been looted and left in the dust.
So to touch on the changes we've made to these tournaments over the years, actually, one of the metas that was so strong was the tank range with the full Verax.
The Verax, those were the days, weren't they?
So strong.
We
decided to take out the flail, of course. A difficult decision because it was kind of our first time saying, actually, that's just way too strong.
Yeah.
And maybe some tank rangers still kind of holding on to their dreams, thinking that they can still make it with such gear. But against those skilled tribrids who are able to compose themselves and actually click well, they're not going to stand a chance.
I mean, it's all about the gear as well. I think what really gives them the edge is having that imbued heart, having the Mage's Book switch, having the Seer's Ring imbued. All of those little items really add up to make what is actually possible to beat that range tank meta. Unless your opponent's, in full Armadillo, then it can be quite difficult still to catch a freeze. But for the most part, it's those extra switches which are harder to move into and to fakey into, but definitely pay off when you do get the freezes.
Yeah. That being said, it looks like we're ready to go into the next round. So let's get things underway. And just as a reminder, when we do hit into the quarterfinals, we're going to be doing each fight one at a time. So you should be able to see these progressing through.
This is a very difficult fight here.
Yeah, Manx
and they will be from this point onwards.
Both players opted in for the full hybrid setup. Some really interesting gear choices here. We've got the one of the wards.
The Malediction
ward,
which gives a little bit of defense bonus, not quite as high major offensive bonus as the Mage's Book does that Manx has, but maybe the defense will help a little bit too. Both exchange of ELS specs. Manx does hit through Prey because it was on the robes, a 32 at that as well, which is pretty huge. And now Tartar, unfrozen, moving around, to catch that freeze and get the DD potentially, but opting to actually not go in for any DDs, just going to hybrid him straight up. And not having a cowardly play, as Rexy described it last MMO tournament. Manx doesn't care about that. He's going for the win. He's stepping underneath. He's faking as he steps out to make his opponent pray the wrong thing. And it looks like it's paying off for him. Right now, Manx is up. A little bit of food. And yeah, it just comes down to these next few specs. Looks like Manct also has 85% compared to Tartar XX.
I'm
35.
not sure about that really, because it looks like Tartar is doing pretty
31
well in terms
through
of
prayer.
supply, so it's going to have to eat a few pieces of food now. The damage just keeps coming in from Manct, so maybe it would balance out very quickly. Both players have pieces of Armadillo opposite sides, so either one will get an upgrade depending on who goes through.
I was going to say Manct is blessed with RNG, but he just got hit for a 39 and nearly died.
Yeah, it's
That
really
was
not looking good
unfortunate.
for him now compared to the start of the fight, that's for sure.
This is a fair fight.
That's makes it so interesting with the PvP weapons. You know, they have the opportunity to hit those massive 60s or 50s or even 30s and 40s, which completely changes the dynamic and switches out the momentum. And Tartar right now going for a spec, but actually faking it. Double fakey and actually catches them off prayer, but Manct only tanks a 0, so good for him. Catches the freeze. 24 on the Armadillo chest. If Manct gets his Armadillo chest plate, he's going to be so hard to catch a
And the DFS
the classic
upgrade as
Manct
well.
food on the
DFS
floor.
too.
He's just resupplied. Manc's got full food
Yes, I was going to
again
say,
now.
the reason why he looked like he was a bit short is because without enough inventory
a
space.
54.
On the right prayer as well, so he deserves it, but I think it's going to be very hard for Tartar X to come back.
Manct is in the zone. It's going to be impossible to beat him when he's like this.
And if this guy Tartar isn't that clan, they are literally both mortal enemies, pretty much. These teams are fought every single tournament, every 3 months for years on end.
Is it Tartar or is it EX? Because he's got both.
They're in an alliance together, so it could be
okay.
a member that is representing both of them and such.
All right. Well, we can see Mika is still winning his fight, or actually he's in a fight, but he is absolutely smashing his opponent from the sounds of it.
We can
Perhaps
drop to
we'll
Mika.
have time to pop over.
Yeah, I think we've got Manc's got this one in the bag, to be honest, and Mika right now
There it
looking
is.
like he has a lot of supplies extra. Always going to pick up. Look at those recoils from Southeast. That is going to be huge. Obviously taking those through every single round to have a little bit more damage, which dwindles away the opponent's supplies. And Mika now, just playing it calmly, having a 5 shark advantage, and he should be able to win this one.
We did just get word that Manct won as we switched off from the fight, so I think it was pretty inevitable as was mentioned. This fight, however, it does look like it's going to go pretty well in terms of Mika's favour if he can just keep the damage coming in, but if all it's going to take right now, we've said before, 2 or 3 hits, 1 hit even from the VLS without the spec but on the right prayer could potentially mean the difference between having 3 to 1 sharks.
Yeah, they've actually both have the same gear. The only advantage that Mika really has is the Armadillo chest plate, which is still a pretty big advantage compared to a Carol's top. But I think, honestly, Mika's got this one in the bag, and he's doing a great job of switching to his tank every single time to try and make sure he's mitigating as much damage as possible. Again, getting those step unders, stepping away just enough space where his opponent can't melee him back. Going for the Staff Bash, a little bit of panic there, a little bit of a misclick, but it happens to the best of us. And unless Southeast right now on 39 hit points can get some huge hits, he's got no special attacks, so no massive window to be able to hit that, and having a Staff Bash himself back and forth as well. But it looks like Mika's going to bring this one home and finish off with a quick bolt KO on around 10 hit points.
Yep, and again, just going to mention, Mika and Manct are probably both streaming right now, so definitely worth opening up their streams, watching from their perspective, just to see how good these guys are.
You may notice that Mika, whilst doing this fight, is doing a little bit of gardening as well. He's just won it, but if you are wondering why there are flowers popping up, we've spoke a lot about stand under and how effective that can be when your opponent is frozen. One of the ways to prevent that from being an advantage for your opponent is to plant mithril seeds, which then turn into flowers, because it forces you 1 tile in an opposite direction.
Wow.
Changing Maze just ended up winning their clutch fight.
That was actually pretty close.
That was
had sharp
LMFAO
as
down.
well.
Yeah,
Yep.
MFA's gone down. But yeah, that's the one way to just avoid it. So I thought I'd let you know for those of you that might not have seen it before, just so that you're aware.
All right, so I now believe we get into the quarterfinals.
I believe so. So we should be seeing one
All right.
fight happening at a time, which will be obviously great for you guys at home to follow, and also for us to be able to run through.
All those guys we just saw there, they all got membership?
All got 1 year of
did.
membership, yeah.
Oh, fantastic. At least they're going home with something today
Yeah.
after a week's worth of playing Runescape.
Yep.
I mean,
and
that's like a solid, what, $100 and something?
Yeah.
So,
I think it's even more. I would go for the title. I'd say I came top 16 of the last Deadman of this
I've
format.
seen a few Twitter bios with that in there, to
Yeah?
be honest. Yeah. People
I
like
mean,
to flex it.
it's respectable.
Yeah,
I'd put that
definitely.
in
It's
my
a good
bio.
achievement, yeah.
Yeah. So going into these finals, of course, we can see very, very similar gear, and each of these players has killed their opponents leading up to this point, of course, getting upgrades along the way, as we've mentioned. So Manct being a serious upgrades to the Armadillo and then to the DFS, looking very strong. We've talked about him a lot in this tournament, and I don't mean to sound so biased, but we have seen him win a Deadman tournament. We've seen him go flawless and win All-Stars, and we've also seen a rather peculiar strategy from Manct. Ian, can you talk a little bit about what he does with the render self?
Yeah, sure. So in game you have a command which is render cell, which allows you for your character to not be seen by yourself. So you can step underneath, and that means you can also see whatever your opponent is switching to, what prayers they've got up, all that kind of stuff, without seeing your own gear. So it takes a bit of time to get used to. You have to know exactly like what you're wearing and be aware of what prayers you've got on at all times and such. But Manked, put in the hours, like all these teams do, to be honest, not just Blazers, but every team really has weeks in advance where they practice, go to the duel arena, fight each other off, and see, how they can improve and really, see whether those slight benefits of like doing step unders and such, that gives you a huge advantage because it's always about, like I said before, creating that momentum. When you start making your opponent eat and start catching them off prayer, and that's when you create the window to really get far ahead. So interesting strategy.
Oh, we're beginning to give word that the next round is ready. So ladies and gentlemen, we will now be moving in to the Deadman Summer 2019 Finals quarter-final segment.
That was a mouthful.
It was indeed.
All right, so here we go, guys. We can see, listing off some of the names, we have 3 members from the Blazer team, and they didn't have too big a team. 1 Rot, we have 2 Lit, we have Mika, who I believe plays with Lit typically, and we have GG/Lit. So quite a big representation from Lit. Only 1 Rot made it through when they had the most numbers, and Blazers actually looking very, very strong with Manked as one of their best.
I think Lit were actually technically higher in terms of number according to the system.
Oh, that 47
only by
right
20
prayer,
or so, but they had pretty good numbers here.
That was huge. Another VLS coming out on the right Prev, unfortunately a 0 for him. Looks like H right now is doing really well, changing at the moment, down a couple of food, but all it's going to take is a couple of those big VLS specs to have it in his favour. There's one of them, 27, not too bad. Going for a second on the right Prev, 54, that is huge!
Spec again.
H going down to like 10 HP right there, but catching his Prey Mage back up again, the right tick.
Wow, another 39 straight after that as well. That is insane. We've just seen basically near enough 100 points of damage being dealt in less than 5 seconds. And that there is like 5 sharks.
Yeah, and to note that whoever wins this fight is guaranteed money. So getting spec'd a 50 and then a 40.
Oh yeah.
You were absolutely trembling. This is the difference in making money or not. $1,000 is a lot of money. I would be shaking my boots if I was H right now.
I wouldn't even be
Change
here.
is doing so well.
It looks like the next fight after this that we'll be going into is whichever is the wand icon. But as you can see just to our right, we do have Manked against Mika. They're both going to be facing up against each other. So 2 big content creators, clash of the titans.
To see Mika make it this far as well after trying for so many tournaments is really respectable. I'm really happy for him as well. But back to this fight, H right now looking like he's up quite a bit of food.
48 smack.
No bruise left though. Change going down to only like 3 HP.
A barrage KO.
No way. That combo.
An FAO. He is not happy.
He says easy.
H is saying,
They've got big
We
egos,
like that.
So we got to flex them.
We like a little bit of character. Well done.
We have Matt here. Is that Matt?
Matt Slayer.
Matt Slayer. So Matt Slayer is one of the GG guys who reached out to me actually.
Matt Slayer is listed as part of Rot according to the
Okay, so
Yes,
maybe
he
it's
is.
a meme like his name backwards, unfortunately. I want to give a shout out to Matt though because he did reach out to me with some information about his team and such. Always does a really good job at doing so. But we have Rot here versus JD, and JD's from Blazers. So again, these guys do not like each other. The guy Slayer level 122 combat, the Rot member, does have a slight advantage gear-wise, I think. Oh, it's a mage, but no.
They're both range
They're
tanks.
both range tanks. I was wondering why I had the 0 staff there for a second. I was like, well, why is he bringing that?
Probably pop it in there in case he's wanting to increase that magic defense.
Yeah, exactly.
Against
I guess
hybrid
for the
opponents.
bit of tank, I suppose, to switch in between hits and try and fake his opponent out. But this is going to be a range tank fight. Oh, that combo! Almost getting KO'd. That could have been it. If you just hit a tiny bit higher, a fraction, then that would have been the enough amount. You don't really see KOs in these kind of fights.
I thought I got excited by numbers, but I've just heard new sounds from Archie I didn't think were
I've definitely made those sounds before, Ben.
That is going to be on Reddit, and I'm gonna replay that clip and send it to you on WhatsApp.
I'm downvoting it. All right. And just to point out, guys, you might notice that the finale, designed by, I want to say it might be Mod West, but I don't want to get this wrong. We go by Mace, Wand, Sword, and then Expo, just in case you're curious what's on the ground there. So we started out with the Mace, we're now with the Wand, then we're going to go into the Sword, which looks like it's the Mika versus Manked fight up next, and then the Expo.
Crossbow.
I don't know if he's mentioned the clans aren't 100% accurate either in these fights, but I think it's safe to say that most likely the range tank right now is probably from Rot since he does have Vengeance as well. But looks like at the moment, I'd say food advantage right now is probably for Mr. Slayer.
Hit then 37, which is pretty decent for a non-spec bolt, followed by 33. He's doing really good job, and I think it does look like, you know, Matt definitely has an upper hand, I think, here in terms of the overall gear. He has the armor deal, which is obviously going to help him when he goes into ranged, and when they're doing predominantly ranged hits, Although, you know, JD is doing a pretty damn good job of keeping himself in this with the melees that he's managed to swing in at the right times.
So if I can just point something out quickly, we have JD versus Matt here, and JD with the Carols, Matt with the Armadillo, the biggest disadvantage that they have. I think one of the strategies that Matt might like to try to take here is to switch to his Torags, which he seems to be doing on every off hit, and then switch to his Armadillo for every offensive hit. But JD seems to be doing a pretty good job at keeping the attacks relatively on the same tick, which is making it very difficult for Matt to use his advantage at all.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly what's going on right now. And so other than that, the spec coming in 34 through the prayer and through the tank gear. That's so lucky for Matt right there. JD now to free food. For Matt's free food, it's very close. Coming down to the wire, to be honest. But special attack wise right now, JD does have 30% spec. Getting a big hit there, and he's going to wait for the opportune moment. If he makes this earlier spec hit a 50 to a 60, then it's his win. If it hits a 0, he could very much lose the fight. It comes down to this spec right here. He's just waiting for the opportune moment to actually use it, and again, constantly trying to fake out his opponent, so his opponent keeps praying the wrong thing. But it looks like Matt knows that he's got the VLS ready and keeping his prayer.
Wow, just like that, I think JD has managed to pull this through. JD with the upper hand, still got one Karambwa on left compared to Matt with no food, only 7 HP, doing everything possible within his powers to make sure he doesn't fall. But that's it, he's taken it.
It was very quick, the bench combos.
Full Armadillo as well, now going in the hands of JD for the next round.
He gets a huge benefit there of the full Armadillo, of course, especially versus any of the mages that are currently left. Our next fight is Tanner from high school. I hate that guy. We also have Yar, who is level 121 combat, and looks like, again, we have 2 tribers fighting it out. Gear-wise,
looks like we have Lit against Lit/GG as well, so
okay.
Very interesting to see.
So these guys might be one of the smaller teams within.
Yeah, I believe Tanner from high school is representing GG, but also potentially Lit. I think Lit were with
yeah, because they're an amalgamation.
Right?
They're in some kind of alliance, aren't they?
And I say I mistook the Expo on the floor for a sword, so this is actually the next fight. The last one is in fact Menk versus
That's
Mika.
okay.
Yeah. So whose could be potentially? As I said before. Inya, who won the last tournament and second place in the rerun, he is playing for Lit, so he might one of these last few members left. We're not too sure yet. It could be Dead Bossy himself, one of the leader of Lit. It could be Voss. As for GG, they have a few members that they've also decided to bring to the table. So I mean.
Tanner from high school seems to be doing a really good job of just keeping damage. It's like 4 hits in a row now. It's been non-stop in terms of quite literal barrages as well.
He hasn't eaten yet, and he's using blood barrages just for the fun of it.
The 37 of prayer, though, gives Yar a bit of a way back into this fight.
Here's his breathing space. This is his time now to bring this back, because he can't just be sat there constantly taking damage.
He needs to catch that freeze, though. He's made Tanner blow up a little bit, but he doesn't manage to catch it because Tanner gets the Armadillo play ball in right in time and doing a fantastic job of being calm, switching to the right gear at the right moment, and a VLS spec on the right prayer, but only a 15 unfortunately for him. Catching this freeze is just so difficult.
One of the things that Yaz is doing very well actually is his movement. If you watch him, he's not really sitting still at all. Right now he's frozen, obviously, but he's doing well to keep moving. And Tanner is kind of just retaliating.
Yeah, it's a really great job to help you buy time, especially if someone is looking to switch between different styles. Obviously, to hit with melee, you have to be within melee range, and if you're constantly on the move and your opponent runs towards you, then there's quite a high chance that they're going to go for melee. It might also be a fakie, but it gives you that few seconds extra that you wouldn't normally have to switch into protect from melee prayer.
And what matters here is how many food they managed to keep from their last fight. So both players are picking up food off the floor still. This could be it. There could be a couple of sharks still left for each player, but this seems relatively fair match, to be completely honest. Even the gear and the stats, it's all very fair.
I'd say that Tanner right now has got a slight advantage, that big VLS spec as well coming in. He has 30% spec, so does Yar. Whoever's next VLS spec hits big is going to really dictate the pace. But Tanner being frozen away from Yar, and now it's a mage range fight once again, both faking and doing their best. And look how low HP they're sitting as well. Yar going right down to like 10 HP. Every single time you go that low, just not eating a little bit sooner, just save you a couple ticks sometimes. Lets you do as much damage output as possible. So those few seconds that you can save really make the difference at the end when it can come down to the wire.
Yep.
Would that be something that you would consider to be a solid tactic? Maybe not always opting to eat the full, or do you think it's better too?
If you're feeling confident and you're calm, then yeah, it could definitely be beneficial to stay low HP, so you're still got the benefit of the range potion, the super combat, for example. But right now, Yar just going ham right now. Yar. I don't know how I said that on Tanner, but. Food-wise, Tanner still has got quite an advantage at the moment, and catching that DD underneath, Yar ready to go for the VLS, switching to the mage, then to the range, and I don't know if Yar's going to be able to come back, but maybe the staff bash might give him a little chance. He's catch this freeze right now, it's so important for him. Goes to the VLS spec instead, Goes back to the freeze. Can he fake it? Can he catch the freeze? He tries to, and he catches it. Steps underneath. That is beautiful from him.
Tanner actually opted to use Blood Barrage rather than Ice Barrage. Maybe he knew his opponent was currently immune to the freeze effect, but he actually did manage to catch that. So if he was able to freeze at that point, it could have helped him. This now looks like this fight has completely swung again. There's going to be taking at least 2 food down from Tanner. Yar's definitely brought it back, but is it going to be enough for him to be able to win this fight?
That 38 on the right prayer definitely helps Yar quite a bit. But Tanner catching that freeze, stepping underneath once again. It's now a free food to free food. And Yar needs to catch this freeze, but he's opting instead to sit in the range tank gear and try and do as much damage as possible because Tanner is prioritizing his mage prey and his defense gear. But now another freeze being caught from both players, stepping a few steps away from each other. Looks like 2 sharks versus 3 sharks remaining. Special attack-wise, 20% versus 20%. It's just waiting a few more seconds now to get that VLS spec, which gives him the big opportunity to hit 50s, to hit 60s.
Wow.
And yeah.
Ya's switching is actually very impressive right now. He's getting 4-ways, 1 tick, no problem. There's money on the line. There's serious money on the line with this.
That was a slow walk.
You almost just want to watch this one.
Yar right now looking like he's out of food, out of supplies, but he's 62 HP. That's enough to try and come back. If he catches this freeze, but he doesn't catch the freeze. Tanner catches it first and looks like he's just walking all around him, sliding around the ice rink, as I used to say. 25% spec has now been achieved. Both players have 30, which means they've both got a spec left. Yar has his last chance now to actually come back. And if he catches this VLS spec on the right prayer, he could potentially win it, but Tanner just not even going for the VLS spec.
I think Tanner's got it. If he didn't hate Tanner enough at high school, he does now.
Respect from GG, there it is.
So he is a GG member.
That was a really,
fight.
really nice fight from the 2 of them, and yeah.
I was told some really interesting information actually. GG, the new clan that's come around, used to be a solo alliance. They actually recruited an elite tribrid called Rami, I was told, who is equal in skill to 1013 and Inya. He's one of their secret weapons. Ooh. So this might be the guy they were talking about. They've geared up, they've fed the whole week through. Doesn't play Devil mode usually, but he's come out, again like we said before, it comes out of the midst, and out of nowhere, new champions arise that we get to see and see their true potential. Next fight we have Mika versus Mank, the content creator mammoths of DMM. Both these guys, swaying out all week. Like I said before, Mika's been doing an absolute fantastic job at daily videos on YouTube. Check those out if you're not already. And Mank has been streaming PKing, like you said before, Ben, the entire week up until this moment. So it's a very exciting fight to be had.
Looks like we're going to be starting very soon in the next 8 seconds. In fact, who is going to take home a guaranteed $1,000? The winner of this fight is going to, but which one will it be?
Well, Mank gets that free straight away, steps under beautifully despite Mika trying to go for the VLS swing, and then steps under with the plant for another one. But Mank keeps premming up. He knows that Mika has those seeds, like we said before, no gardening in my territory. He's going to go all the way through to the final, he hopes. And now Mank still have a lot of spec left as well. Still, opting for that render self mechanic we talked about before that Mank's really been practicing for many months, and if not like a year plus now. And he's really got down to it too.
There's another big difference in strategies here. You can see Mika
that wasn't the right prey. Actually, maybe you could have KO'd Mank there.
Ooh, he is using a lot of special attacks here.
Mank often,
Mika's used all of them actually.
I see that Mank does tend to, as Ian suggested earlier, he does tend to keep himself on those lower HPs whenever he can. I think it's just a case of calculating whether or not it's possible that he's able to die in that moment.
That's what it comes down to. Yep.
Anyways, as I was saying, so Mika has his inventory switches at the top left, his gear switches. Mank keeps his towards the bottom. Mank obviously also using the render self strategy, but Mank has his tank body at the bottom right, which he doesn't touch. Mika hasn't bothered bringing any. Mika's instead brought the seeds. Just a couple little interesting things that could make the difference in this fight.
Yeah, it looks like gear-wise as well, actually. The double armor deal against Mika. Mika's going to have a really hard time right now catching those freezes, which are really imperative to create that momentum and getting those step unders. And that's where Mank really succeeds very well in these tournaments. If he gets that freeze and he starts to walk underneath you and just step out sideways and such diagonally where you can't melee him, that's where he has a field day and that's where he starts to get that advantage. But right now, Mank's looking like he's actually got quite a lot of food on the floor. A decent spec from him here, but through prayer, Mika keeps prayer made up. Both times, really, really good job there as well. Both players now not having any spec. Actually, Mika's actually just got another one, just before Mank's got his. So if Mika can catch this next freeze, which he has, and gets unfrozen first, then he might be having an opportunity to be able to throw that VLS spec in at the right prayer and come back quite a bit right now.
Mika doing so well. And we know he's good. We saw him at the All-Stars. He's done well in the betas in the past as well, but he's never done as well in an actual Deadman tournament as Mank, of course. Mank has 4 sharks to his name. He's going to be wanting to use those blood barrages as much as he possibly can. Goes in for the VLS. He also has a spec left. Mika's building up on his second.
It's like Mika now actually getting the freeze on Mank, but
Yeah.
Mank without the Mithril seeds can't move, and even if he could, the seed's already down on the floor, so it's
Well,
not
they're
allowed to
talking
move.
to each
They're having a
It's
little
like,
banter in game,
what's
to be
up?
honest.
Not much, you chilling? Oh, they're just having a good time.
So I think the reason for that is that obviously Mika wants to try and get his stats up as high as he can again and repot and all that kind of stuff and back into the fight. That's enough chit chat. And DMM Mika now with a beautiful VLS, but Mank just gets the prey melee on in time and catches the freeze as well.
Barrage as well,
So
which
again,
is insane to
before,
see.
like I said before, like when Mank gets these freezes, it starts to become like
Manked with a couple stat bashes.
he's trying to pick up his inventory
3
of food.
staff
on the floor.
bashes.
Look at
Yeah.
his inventory now. He has
So Mank left food on the floor, he wants to pick that up. It looked like Mika had basically kept Mank on par in terms of supplies, but Mank has been doing this entire tournament, has been decimating his opponents, taken a lot of items into his inventory, which means he's left a lot of food on the floor. And now it looks like all of a sudden it's an uphill battle here from Mika, and it could be that Mank is the one to take at home a guaranteed $1,000.
I think it comes down to the fact that he got that DD underneath, and once he starts to get those DDs, it's so hard to fight the render self. Another thing to mention here, I don't think we've talked about before, if Mank does win this round, it's a big ball, by the way, into a big VLS, but the prey melee's on, so I think
A big little
regardless.
VLS.
A big little, I was like,
Yeah.
26, that's pretty big. Oh, on the right
Wow.
side, 27 could have KO'd him there. I was going to say, if Mank wins this, we have 3 Blazers in the semi-finals,
Which is pretty insane.
which is huge, yeah.
That's pretty insane, but that's
smaller
not-
numbers as well.
That's not too inconsistent with the last few Deadman tournaments. The Blazers have been doing so well. They keep their numbers small, but they're all very, very good.
Yeah. And Mika right now down to
hits,
10 HP.
no food, just a few little bits of prayer left. I don't think there's any chance unless Mika suddenly gets some spec left and Mank decides to just take off.
So keeping an eye on this.
There we
can
go. Mank's gone through.
Pay attention, Mank has won that with 3 food remaining, which means he's going to drop those to the floor, have them extra for the next fight. If you weren't following how they get their food back during the fight, what's happening is they're winning their fights with extra food. They then get their typical, whatever it is, I believe 14 sharks or so.
And what's happening is they've got a full inventory of food, and a full inventory of switches, and every single round everyone gets the same amount of food, or that's 14 sharks or 15 or whatever. If they haven't got enough space in their inventory, it drops the floor right underneath them, so later in the fight, they can go up.
Yeah.
I thought they were saving them on for
No,
the
you can't
previous
save him for the
rounds.
next round. It's just the fact that he doesn't have space because he's got so many crazy switches because he's quick on the sticks with the clicks. That's why he's able to get some extra
well
ones.
spotted.
Yeah.
So we've got Mank going through. Who else have we got going through? Well, we know Mika's out. I believe we have Tanner from GG.
Yep, Tanner went through.
So he's the last.
pretty insane.
And Rot's gone.
Yeah, the supposed rot. I mean, obviously, we're not 100% accurate or whether or certain whether those are the
For all
players,
we
but-
know, those 3 players might be in Rot, but they've somehow snuck their way into Blazers to get free.
yeah, they could be
I very
the-
much doubt it, but it could happen.
infiltrating. But we are now down to the last 4 players.
Which means they're all getting money.
Yeah.
So again, guys, it's $20,000 to the first place, $10,000 to the second, third and fourth get $1,000 each, and the top 16 who have just died, they'll get a year's worth of membership. So there you go. And we're ready to go. All right,
Straight
let's do
into
it.
it. Here we go. I love this. No downtime. Straight into the next fight. Here we have Mr. H himself against JD.
Both
Let's have a look
Blazers.
at what Mr. H's switches are going to be like in this fight. Is he going to be as a formidable opponent as he was in the previous round that we managed to watch? Both have imbued heart. Both 2 in fact have full armadillo as well. They are absolutely stacked. I think the only difference being that H has the DFS, whereas JD has the ward here.
And now it's a hybrid fight versus a tribrid. Like I said before, JD opting to wield that staff in between hits as best he can, and H understanding he's against a tribrid, against a tank. Sorry, he needs to be able to do step unders to try and mitigate the damage taken in by him as well. And that full armadillo, catching that freeze,
Wow.
I'm surprised he's catching it, to be honest. But catching that freeze is so difficult and so RNG based.
He does have a very strong magic setup. He's got the imbued heart as well. He's got the mage's book. I see what you're saying now, Ian, about plenty of switches H has. He's got the double armadillo, the double tank body, the double Aram's obviously switch.
He has
The DFS
three
switch, so
different
much.
shields switches. He has the Mage's Book, the Defender, and the DFA. You don't need the Defender really. Like, it helps for the VLS. It's got a bit more accuracy on it, but I mean, he's just doing it because he can, pretty much right now.
But
And,
can he though? Because
Well, I think the biggest
he's doing all right.
disadvantage that H has here is being able to pull out a lot of damage, which has obviously been in favour. But the thing that's keeping JD in this fight, from what I've been able to gather in the last few seconds, is that whenever H takes that risk of trying to get the freeze and putting himself into the magic gear, his defences are dropped. The bolts have been hitting 20s plus. And that's really where this difference is being bridged between the two of them. Otherwise, you know, if H was able to catch every freeze instantly and never splash, I don't think JD would even still be left in this fight anymore.
But JD's now picking up some of the remaining shots he's got. He has 5 food remaining and a brew. Whereas H, if he's picked up all his food,
yeah, exactly. Same situation again, though. Not able to get the freezes, opting to try and force out that freeze with the magic gear on rather than the defensive gear, and he's paying the price.
I mean, even when you hit with a VLS on Prey Melee, if they've got robes on, you can still hit those 30s, which make a big difference, and they add up over time. Looking at spec right now, though, H does have 2 special attacks at the ready, primed. So going for the freeze, keeping his opponents in the same position, so he just has a prey range the entire time. And that's really where the tank meta really falls down, because when you've only got a range switch and you're frozen in place constantly, if you're unlucky enough to be frozen, it can be so difficult to come back. 22 through the Prey Melee, just going for anything he can because he knows he's going to be frozen again in a second, and hoping he can catch those hits off prayer. But H doing a fantastic job of, you know, keeping Prey Melee up the whole time, waiting for that freeze before switching back to range prey, opting for a few blood barrages too to maximize his DPS, but also, you know, healing up a little bit too. And it's coming down to the wire right now for H. He still has 1 spec almost coming up soon, and JD has a spec as well, so he's got to be very careful of that Prey Melee again. If he gets hit by that VLS spec, it's going to be very hard at this point in the game to come back from it.
If you were in this position now,
there it is.
Knowing that you're up against a range tank, knowing you've got a hybrid, and probably assuming that your opponent has a very similar level of food, would you opt to just try and out RNG them in the range tank setup, or would you still stick with the hybrid?
You need that freeze.
The tribrid.
You need that freeze pretty much, because if you have that freeze, you mitigate the damage coming in, but I think it was too little too late. I saw a massive 38 VLS through Prey Melee from JD, and the Vengeance as well, just ticking away at him. Looks like JD's got 78 HP right now.
Wow, really nice bolt though, 45. H coming in with the redemption as well. Both players now out of food. It could just be the next hit.
No way. If
this could actually happen.
On double armadillo, it's going to be very hard to catch it. Plus, he's using redemption with no pressure.
Oh!
He catches the freeze.
No way.
He's got 1 HP left.
What the hell?
My goodness.
H!
That was actually ridiculous.
That was absolutely insane.
And fair play to him as well. I mean, you can only get those comebacks when you're in tribal gear.
Wow. So just as you said, yeah, I mean, thank you for giving the right information, because he definitely chose that perfect tactic to go ahead. I mean, it was extremely risky, but that was probably the closest fight that we've ever seen.
Well, he played that perfectly, and kudos to him for going through. Unfortunately, the range tank not able to. And I believe H was from Blazers as well, so one of the Blazers members, hopefully, potentially, hopefully in terms of like if we're sure that it's a Blazer member, I'm trying, no bias there.
One of them has got a guaranteed $10,000.
Guaranteed $10,000 at least, like take home for his team. And now we have DMM Manked versus Tanner from HS. Apparently both these guys aren't in the same team. Obviously, Manked representing Blazers and Tanner representing GG. He might be the guy that I was talking about before, the secret weapon they told me about, or maybe it's someone that snuck their way in, or a GG member as well. Who knows? This is going to be a hard fight for Manked, to say the least.
All right, guys, we're ready to get into the next fight. Let's do it. Manked versus Tanner. We've got Blazers versus GG. Very, very similar setups. What are the differences? What can we see here? Dragon Crossbow ACB?
Yes,
that's a big difference.
It's got a little bit more range accuracy and attack, and it's no extra max hits though, I don't believe. So.
Manked has the Mithril Seeds as well, which he obviously picked up from Mika.
Yep.
Didn't have those previously. We'll see if he has opportunity to utilise those at all during this fight. Manked started off getting frozen by Tanner, but has now repaid the favour to Tanner and froze him, which means that Manked will get unfrozen a little bit sooner, going straight in with the VLS. Job. It was a perfect timing. Unfortunately, the hit wasn't there though.
Sorry, but both of those hits were off prayer.
Yeah, they were ideal. Just RNG not in the favour of Manked at the moment.
Saying that though, like you said before, he had a fantastic job of, even though he's caught in the first freeze, he still kept calm and actually managed to do more DPS than his opponent
It's
did.
that Mozart, I'm telling you.
And now, Tanner with his special attacks, he's going to want to get rid of those. There he goes. He's using the first one, followed in the blood barrage, rather. He's doing well. He's taking some serious damage. There's serious money on the line. I know I've said this, but again, he's doing well to keep himself composed. He's not shaking. You can tell his clicks. He knows what he's doing.
This fight is between $1,000 and $10,000 pretty much. So everything is on the line for these guys right now. And Tanner trying to stay calm and keep his cool, trying to move into the tank here in between every single freeze. Manages to catch Manked, even in the full armor deal, quite a way behind. Manked right now looking pretty calm as well. 103 HP, just restored his stats up. Went for the rage pot again. He's going for the super combat 2 as soon as he's unfrozen, I imagine. He only has 10% spec though. Tanner does have almost 2 special attacks, which can obviously throw the fight in his favour as well if he manages to hit them off prayer.
Opting to hold on to as well his final doses of the super combat and the range potions. So there may be a point here just for the next few seconds where Manked actually has a bit higher in terms of those boosted stats, but we'll probably see that shift as Tanner then opts to take those. There is a tactic that's utilised by high-level players, or a lot of PKs in general, which is kind of like animation stall or hiding, where when you sip a potion, it doesn't actually show what your character's doing because the animation of the potion will override. So you'll probably see them utilise that to get in extra hits on the right prayer.
I'm seeing some huge blood barrages from Tanner at the moment as well. 48 on the right prayer on Manx. Yeah, Tanner's going absolutely ham right now. He's come back really well. This next freeze is going to be paramount to him. Can he catch it? Well, Manx is in the full armor deal. He does manage to catch it. Can he get the step under? Gets off prayer as well. Beautiful play from Tanner, not wasting any game ticks there either. And now it comes down to a one shark versus one shark, unless they have more food on the floor. But a 38 ball was that, I believe, from Manx.
I think, but
that was huge. Now he's trying to catch the freeze as well. Can he catch it? He can as well on the armor deal. There's some huge freezes coming in. Off prayer as well. It's coming down to the wire right now. Manx has that brew dose. Doesn't want to use it though. Once he uses that brew dose, he's going to be brewed down, which means he doesn't have the super range and the super combat effects anymore. Man go for the spec. 13. Could have KO'd him right there. Tanner has 19 hit points. Coming down to the wire, but he can still come back. Tanner has one special attack as well. He's waiting. He's waiting for Manx to change his prey melee off, so he's able to go for the VLS.
There it is.
Yeah, he's shot down. 26.
Wow. He was from GG. Tanner was actually GG member, so that was correct information. So
that was a great fight.
Very, very nice fight. Both very respectful as well. So.
Very small detail. Just noticed a couple times in that fight where Meg could have used the mithril seeds,
and
but
he just didn't bother. No, I think that may be, credit to the fact that he's using render self method and he's very comfortable with that, so maybe he knows what his opponent's doing, and it gives him a chance to just kind of like think about what he's going to do next, rather than mithril seeding, potentially having the wrong gear on, maybe not having the right prayer, or maybe not even being prepared to then attack his opponent back. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
I'm seriously starting to think here with this render self strategy, winning a Deadman tournament. And then winning the All-Stars and then doing so well here and all these things. Why isn't anybody else picking up on this? It takes a while to get used to, but when you are render selfed and you can't see yourself, you can see your opponent standing on you. You can see what gear he's using, as you said. You can preempt his attacks and prepare for them. It's a serious advantage if you can
I
get
think
good
in the
at
last few months, definitely, as people have been trying to learn the meta, but Manx has just been practicing for so much longer than everyone else, so he's had a few months advantage at the very least.
I think it's one of those things where with a lot of games, and RuneScape especially, a lot of stuff comes down to muscle memory. And now whilst using render self doesn't change where you're clicking in the game, it definitely changes your overall kind of like experience. So if you've played RuneScape for the last 6 years and you've always relied on knowing the gear that you have on based on looking at your character, for example, or knowing your prayer or your HP by looking at the bars, and suddenly they're not there and you can't see where you're standing, then those are all little things that add up into this bigger problem, and that's why it's so difficult to learn how to actually utilise that effectively. But as Ian rightly pointed out, Mank's been using this pretty much ever since it was available and learning how to really master it, and he seems to be doing a really good job at it.
It was really cool to see as well, both Rot, who haven't played in many tournaments officially at least, and had that massive lockdown on Luna. It clearly paid off. They had a member that went all the way to the top 4, which is still money in their pockets. They can't be sad about that one. We also have GG2, who last time round in the rerun, I believe, it was Black Mirror, or the crab emoji guy. Sorry, Twitch chat, soz. But he did really, really well, and he came top 4, which you don't always see either. So yeah, really, really cool from both those clans to come out here and make it that far. But 2 Blazers members in the final.
Insane.
Guys, are we ready? We are ready. So we have 2 Blazers members. We've got Manked versus H. Both repping the both going to be friends. There's $20,000 to first, there's $10,000 to second. Let's get into the finals of the Deadman Summer Finale.
Not only that, but the last Deadman as we currently know it as well.
Yep.
What a moment this is. Piece of RuneScape history being experienced right here, ladies and gentlemen.
I was wondering if they go for any crazy tactics, for example, taking off all their armor or something fun for the viewer's spectacle, but they're going for pride right now and going to show who is the best PKer in their team. Manx catching that first free, stepping under H, and hitting a 41 bolt was that. That was huge.
That was an insane
huge
special. I know you really love those opal bolt specials.
Oh man, it makes it worthwhile.
Diamond bolt specials, sorry.
It makes it worthwhile doing DS2, and that's what their huge strategy was, Blazers, the whole way through, was locking it down with 8 players. I saw in Solo Mission's video, they took down another player with max gear. A huge VLS as well, 33 on the right prayer. Could have been bigger, still not bad for H. He's trying to catch his freeze now.
They play so similarly. Their moves are move for move. These guys have obviously practiced
It's
a lot
almost
together.
as well, the damage exchanges have been nearly identical as well. Really big hits. It was the difference between Mank's range hit and H's mage hit, but they both had 2 good hits in a row. And as you say, both similar in terms of playstyle as well.
It's like they're fighting a clone
like I said before the tournament started, I'm sure you guys have been in TeamSpeak together with different players in the duel arena, practicing it out in the tournament worlds as well. Well, those were still up. So these guys know each other's playstyle. They know how to PK. It's
The
very
fact
neck and neck.
Mank is typing with Mika in that fight there, in I believe it was the quarters back there. It just shows he's so calm.
Yeah.
He's obviously
Same
just
with Mika,
enjoying
man.
this.
It was just like good
That being
vibes
said,
all
2
round.
huge hits against Mank here, 2 30 pluses in a row. Going to take quite a bit of his resources down. H doing a really good job to stay on top of this fight at the moment.
Yeah, one thing I don't notice Mank does as much as his opponents do is using the Blood Barrage, because Blood Barrage, of course, heals a percentage of the damage dealt as well, so it can really help with his neck and neck fights. But Mank, of course, maybe because of his muscle memory, like we talked about before, having Ice Barrage in certain areas where he utilises that a bit more, plus the max hits might help him for pure damage output. But H doing a fantastic job right now, catching Mank off prayer quite a bit, and actually, pulling away in the lead quite a fair bit too now. Both players utilise their brews and such. But both of H's specs, I think, hit very low too. He's got 1 spec left. Mank almost has 1 as well. He does have a special attack as well.
He's
His
taking
next
off
spec
his
is going to be
helmet
interesting.
for the magic attacks.
Yeah, of course. Well, the Thorax helm does give negative mage bonus, so every little helps in these fights, to be honest. Another big openable spell, only a 22 actually. I saw the animation occur, so I got a little bit excited, a bit prematurely.
Very curious.
They are
who this
diamond
player is.
bolts,
He's
right?
playing
Not
very,
opal.
very well.
It's diamond bolts.
No,
right?
they're openable.
They're open bolts.
Opal bolts, yeah.
So I was right in the first place, and I corrected myself to make myself wrong. Great, that's such an
Amazing.
Ieza moment.
So, guys, just to reiterate, if you're unfamiliar, Mank has actually won a Deadman tournament before. Truth be told, he came 2nd place, and it was discovered that the 1st place winner of that tournament was actually cheating overnight. He did a little bit of botting, so he was disqualified. Mank took the win. This will make him the only ever Deadman player to win 2 tournaments in a row. If he ends up winning this, he'll also be the only Deadman player to ever come top 2. Really, he's already there. So a really, really impressive title. But again, this H guy coming out of nowhere, we have no idea who he is. We just know he's in this clan Blazers, a friend of Mank. Clearly, they fight very similarly. Quite even as well. 2 food for Mank. Actually, 4 for H.
Yeah, looking pretty good for H at the moment, unless Mank has some food stored on the floor somewhere. He's going to need some really good hits to come out of this fight. He has another special attack ready now, so he's just waiting for that right moment to be able to utilise it. But until then, we're just going to be able to see a back and forth between mage and range.
H isn't changing his gear. He's sitting in those robes. He's been sitting in arms for 10 seconds
It's
now.
almost like he's letting Mank win, because maybe the team members have been like, you know what, let him win. He needs to take this one home. We trust Mank and such. Give him the win, man.
I think he's probably caving a little bit under the pressure. There's a 10 grand difference in this fight.
No, he's not caving that much. He's letting Mank win, I think. I think Mank is going to take this one home. I'm not trying to take anything away from Mank, of course, in this final, but H is just standing around right now, doing a couple switches, a couple fakies, barraging with the wrong stuff on Mank, sitting in full armor, still going for the VLS wax as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm with in on this one. This fight doesn't look the same as the previous ones did. I have a feeling that H is he's either his batteries have ran out and he's decided that he needs to have a nap mid-fight, or he's letting Mank
You know
win.
what?
And there you have it.
I'm going to say you're right.
It looks like Mank
Yeah.
has won, regardless of the fact
Both
Mank
Blazers.
wins the last ever, as we currently know it, Deadman tournament.
Amazing. That's amazing. 2 victories. He won the All-Stars event. He's won so much money from these tournaments. It pays
minted.
to be good at Old School, doesn't
Yeah.
it? So there you have it, guys. That is the end of the Deadman Summer Finale 2019. Just to reiterate, we saw Mank and Blazers doing so well. Mank going on to win it, as we just saw. And as Ieza just touched on, this is the last one as we know it. We're using this term lightly because Deadman will come back, but it's going to come back better than ever,
actually,
different and stronger.
There is one point to interrupt you on there, sorry. It's not that Deadman isn't gone forever. Deadman still exists. Don't forget that World 45 does exist, which is the permanent Deadman world, which anyone with a membership can access. I believe that it was only a few months ago that there was a big round of changes that got added to the World 45 Deadman. So we've got the Grand Exchange. It's a lot more favourable now in terms of new players joining, in terms of an immunity period, XP rates, XP loss has been changed as well. So definitely go and check that out if you are interested in Deadman, if you are interested in getting involved in PvP. Guys, get yourselves prepared, ready for when the next version of Deadman comes out in the future, because you've clearly seen what happens here. Anyone can win it, and there's a potential for thousands of pounds to be won as well.
Yeah, that's very well said. I think I would be practicing in Old School if I wanted to participate in the next tournament. Looking at Deadman historically, we know that it does best when we make these big changes.
Yeah.
So we started with things to make a little bit less detrimental when you died. You started to protect more stats, more items. But then we threw in the big changes. Then we threw in the 1v1 section of the tournament. Then we threw in the PvP weapons and armors. And when those changes started to come, that's when Deadman really started to shine.
yeah.
So you can trust that when Deadman comes back, It'll probably be, it may be with a different name.
I can't wait.
Who knows, different face completely. You might not even recognize it as Deadman, but it's going to be different and it's going to be better. So there you have it, guys.
I am so excited. It almost seems like I'm joking, but I'm not. But the one thing that I can't wait to give for a real reason for me to get involved in terms of content at the moment is PvP. It's an area that I haven't explored since pre-EOC RuneScape times, and I'm just waiting for that right moment where it's all perfect. I've tried Deadman before, I've tried World 45. I mean, it's not like a brand new experience for me anymore, but the next thing that comes up, you can guarantee I'm going to be in there and I'm going to be trying it out.
Do you know it'd be different involving a little bit of PVM? So
Maybe
you
like
beat
a
your
mixture.
opponent in the semi-finals, then you take on Zook. Then you go back, fight the other guy.
Yeah, well, I won't bother with that then. I'll just carry on.
I mean, Bellis has got that one in the bag, I think. From
Oh, we have actually had official confirmation. Normally at the end of the tournament, our anti-cheating team will confirm the actual winner is legitimate, and it does turn out that Manked is
Well done.
confirmed as the legitimate winner. So congratulations! We get a clapper in the chat, please.
All right. So guys, before we get into our final thoughts from Deadman, from starting out until this point, I'd like to mention again, we have to promote RuneFest. It's our yearly RuneScape convention. Join yourselves, or join the other RuneScape players. I believe it's October 4th and 5th. Tickets are on sale now. You can find the link in the description. There it is on the screen. Early birds are unfortunately out. They do go quickly, but yeah, go ahead, get yourself a RuneFest ticket. Come say hi to us. We'll be there.
Yeah. Mank has a quick shout out as well.
The last part of that message is
Yeah, Mank says thanks to everyone for feeding him, as the clan did, and Blazers, his clan too, and also hashtag Goofy Gang, which I think are a group of his friends as well that helped him get this far. So
I wonder if that
congrats to him.
includes Ruben, the goof.
It must be. Mr. Saskies, you know it. You know it.
All right, guys. So final thoughts on Deadman. It's been quite a journey.
It really has, yeah. From when it first started off, I remember the first time I ever got involved in Deadman from a non-player's perspective was back at Runefest. 2 weeks into my job as when I was back working for Jagex as an employee, standing behind the stage, and I just thought this thing is incredible. I want to be more involved, and then that finally led to me being able to give the opportunity to be able to cast alongside great friends such as yourselves and really professional people as well. It was great experience, but being able to see the different players just like evolve has been fantastic. So for me personally, my final thoughts were Deadman has meant so much more to me than almost anything else at the moment, because it's provided me a huge opportunity to be able to be where I am now, be able to commentate. It helps me be able to continue streaming as well outside of Deadman and doing commentary and events like this. And it's also brought me a huge amount of new people to watch on Twitch as well as YouTube. And I've never really watched YouTube that much until the last 2 years. And that was really because I started watching Deadman strategy videos, and then it just kind of like snowballed from there. Yeah. And now I never sleep, so.
Yeah. I think Deadman, thinking back to my most memorable times in RuneScape, come back to things like your first time fighting Jad, your first time trying Deadman. It's one of those things. It's one of those things that kind of brings you outside of your comfort box. You get a little bit scared. You're walking from a bank to another bank, you could die. You could lose hours and hours and hours of progress. Yeah. And it's been something completely different from anything we've ever done in Old School. It's been amazing to watch it grow and turn into what it did. We took it all around the world. We took it to a TwitchCon. We took it to a RuneFest. Yeah, it's been amazing. I couldn't be happier to look forward to the future and see what it's going to turn into.
Yeah, man, I've been playing DMM since the first iteration. I owe everything to you guys for inviting me to cast tournament after tournament.
You guys do so well.
I think since 2014 now. I want to say a massive thank you to all the clans that always get in touch with me. I have loads of notes here just like sitting around. I didn't manage to shout all them out, but you guys are what makes Deadman Mode in a way as well.
Yeah. I just like to really continue on from what you just mentioned there. I really want to emphasize one thing I missed out is that without you guys, the players, without all of the dedicated people that play 20 hours a day, 7 days,
maybe less, maybe 4 hours.
Yeah, maybe 4 hours as well. You know, right. But to everyone, whether you're a hardcore player in a clan, whether you're a solo player, whether you're just playing in the seasonals, whether you are, just actually playing the game and never speaking, very vocal on Twitter, submitting all of your feedback. Without all of you guys, none of this would have ever been possible. So massive thank you to all of you, the players, and everyone as well that tunes into the events. Twitch chat, you are very interesting for sure at most times, but you are also absolutely wonderful and brilliant. And yeah, thank you for being with us. And I'll let you carry on, Ian. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that, like I said, I've been cast, I've lost my train of thought. I've been cast like 2014, 15 or something like that. It's been going on for like 4+ years. Obviously, it needs to be reshaped and to be something fresh and exciting again. But I've made so many memories, so many friends along playing demo mode and casting it and going to all these events for you guys. And like, I'm honestly, like, I'm emotional about it because it has been a wild ride and it's crazy to see where it's taken us all. And I'm sad to see saying goodbye for now, and I hope it comes back. And
we will come back.
Thank you, basically.
We will come back. All right, guys. I'm going to ask for actually one last thank you. People who kind of go unmentioned, the guys who run this show, the guys who run the tournament. Thank you to the production team here at Jagex, as well as the Jagex guys operating the cameras, making the world go live, doing all of these special things that they do. So thank you to the people who actually make Deadman happen.
Clapper in the chat. Come on.
Okay. That said, guys, well, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.